Good evening, everyone. I hope my voice is loud and clear. Perfect. Thank you, Mr. Hassan. Thank you, Mr. Chitra. Perfect. Thank you. So we'll be starting where we left. Yesterday we discussed about the contracts which are related to predictive. And yes, we'll be resuming where we left, which is about agile contracts, which we will be covering up now. So first thing first, let's kind of talk about these are uh, combinations which can be tried. Well, within one contract you can see multiple options. So these are like you can say uh, there are various clause you can add to a contract, and like so you'll see different versions here. They're not all individual contracts. There are some elements are components of contract, so you can customize your own contract by picking up this option, that option. So there are different options involved in like in case if you want to go and use agile contracts, well, because the nature is different, hence you have a lot of add-on features you can add depending on what kind of agreement we have with the vendor. So let's kind of get started with the first thing first. Every agile contract typically will be the multi-tiered. This is more like a mainframe, which is always going to be there. Whenever we do deal with agile contracts, you'll always have this one for sure. Always. What is this multi-tier contract? Keeping in mind, agile will be more about changes, and there'll be it's very hard to kind of put everything like it hard coded because there will be requirements which will be changing. So in a multi-tiered contract, we try to kind of understand, bifurcate the overall sort of scope of work. So first thing first, things which are going to be crystal clear and there will be no changes, we create a master service agreement, MSA, for that. All those things which have, well, whatever said and done, this is not going to change. What like warranties, legal stuff and all that, bottom, like wherever. So how that, the if in case of a dispute, how that legal procedures will be done, what will be the arbitration procedure. Bottom line, it doesn't matter what you're doing, but the law of the land will prevail. What are the conditions? These are sort of predefined sort of thing where there are no changes expected. So this was more about the items which are fixed, and there will be no changes expected here because basically, if in case we like I expected something to do, and my understanding that you understood it correctly, my requirements, and you had a different interpretation, we might get into a dispute. So well, how will you manage disputes? Well, that concept will remain same based on whatever country you're working in, whatever legal aspects will be covered. That will be standard. Doesn't matter what kind of job we like, what kind of project we're working on. So the things which are crystal clear, we just hard code through a master service agreement. Now, there will be certain things which will be variable items, and this is more of a rate card kind of thing. So this is one we are talking about, like a rate card. And what this rate card would be? So I may have a rate card which says like if you need a designer, well, we have a lot of designers. Well, you tell me what do you want. So we have a designer which is like say up to like say zero fresher till like a 2 years experience. That's the rate for this person. Say somebody would like with a 2 years to say 5 years experience, that's the rate of this person. Say 5 years to say 10 years, this is the rate of the person. Similar, you need a developer, well, developer rate card. So it's more of a rate card where you can do a mix and match and find out what do you want. So there is more of like related to your services, and you will, this is more to do from augmentation of staff. Well, I might need for very simple work, I might want to hire a designer, which will be cost effective for me. But when I'm sort of dealing with something more complex, I might need a designer which has more experience in it. Well, similarly for developer also. So this is more of a rate card which will tell us like these are the different options available, and based on that you can always refer to the rate card and pick up the people and ask for the people according to that rate card, which is sort of giving you an option to choose from. Then there is a separate document which is generally going to be an SOW, statement of work. Now, not the scope of work, but the statement of work. Now, because we can't have a scope there. So scope of work is more about the things which will be changing, which will be required. So as of now, whatever changes, like requirements you've given me, based on which we might want to talk about how tentatively, how many releases will be required, how much of effort will be required. Based on your requirement, we can talk about it. So, and I know for sure there will be changes happening with this one, because there are no changes sort of happening because this is standard. This is more of a rate card, and this is about all the requirements which will be satisfied. So we have a separate document which is going to be a part of this multi-tiered structure, where we will only talk about those elements, well, which is about the initial requirement that has been given. We may talk about tentatively how many releases, how many sprints will be required, and tentatively how much will be the budget for that particular software development or website development. And I know for sure changes will happen here. So which is why we keep a separate document for things which will be variable, which will change by the nature of the business. That's why we call it multi-tiered. And honestly, every agile contract will have this structure. You can say this is the main frame for you. Now, rest of the things you can add on top of it, like add on like a features. So you can, based on the agreement and negotiations, you might want to pick up some of these options, and there some will be definitely there. Not just only multi-tiered one, some elements will be added. So let's talk about the additional add-on features. Now, emphasized value delivered. This one is only about, like it says, the value delivery. Technically, we are going to be paid on the value. Well, when do you deliver value? Every sprint. Whenever a sprint is completed, well, what you end up creating in a sprint is the most valuable user story, which was prioritized. So value gets created at the end of each sprint. So, well, are you going to pay me at the end of each sprint? Well, let's decide that, because it's all about value. When the value gets delivered, you get paid. So, well, we're going to deliver value at the end of each sprint. Well, so are you going to pay me at end of each sprint? Well, you decide, because value is delivered. Or you want to say that whenever we will develop a complete feature, because to develop a feature, we might need a lot of user stories. So yes, when you develop a complete feature, a functional feature, then you pay, because that's a value delivery. Or you can decide release-wise, when I've done a complete release, which will require multiple features to be developed. So agreement will be decided based on when would you pay, but it will be always based on some sort of value delivery. So value delivery happens at a user story level at the sprint, at the end of each sprint, or for that matter, feature-wise also, a value is delivered, or for that matter, release-wise. So depending on whatever you plan and discuss, you can pay, you can get the payments done, or like a certain stages whenever values are getting delivered to the customer. So this is basically the based on value delivery. What is value? You decide and agree and negotiate accordingly. Now, this one is you chosen, and from the customer standpoint, not from my standpoint, from the customer standpoint, who's going to pay for the delivery, for the development. So this is where we try to keep it's more about, like, so you have a given certain amount, and like, so I know for sure my budget I will not pay everything upfront. So as and when my value will be delivered, I can pay, but I have a certain flow of income coming in. So if I say, for example, right now in the initial part, I have about, like, say, $10,000. So I'm ready to get the work done for 10,000. As and when I can get you more, I get more money, I can release more money for development. So since I have got $10,000 worth of, like, money which I can give for development, so this is where what I do here, we try to break down everything at a user story level, and we can define the price for a user story. We can say, like, and user stories based on classification, like a small user story, what is going to be the price? What when we talk about the middle, like medium kind of user story, what will be the price? A large user story, what will be the price? So we can set a price for us user story level, so that as a customer or a client, here the product owner is the one who's getting the instruction from the customer. So this guy knows that, okay, customer has only $5,000 this sprint to pay. So I can get only job done for 5,000. So given this, I have a budget for 5,000, which is available for this sprint. I can choose, well, I know how much, what is the price for small user stories, medium ones, and large ones. So based on my budget, I can plan those user stories, which will be able to, which can be done in 5,000. So next week, probably next sprint, we have even lesser budget. We have got only $2,000 available. So I will go and pull out the work only, which with I can satisfy $2,000 work. So this sort of you get paid based on the user story level. So you break it down, and so and here you can say there is a lot of control over the person who's spending the money. So this person who, like, given my budget, if I have less money, I can control my budget and I can get more of the smaller user stories done. If I've got more budgets, and I'll be able to get the more user stories which are medium or large done. Bottom line, it gives me chance, the control in the hand of the person who's paying based on how much money. It's like simple. It's as simple as that. Say I go and I want to shop in the market. I'm going to shop based on how much money I've got in my wallet. So if I have got certain money, I'm going to go and buy a certain, like whatever items based on how much money I have got in my wallet. So this is exactly what you're doing here. So the customer has certain wallet, and that's like every sprint would have certain money, and this customer can then shop and can do a shopping of user stories based on the price. So that gives you control. So I will be able to kind of control given how much money I have as inflow to do the development. This one, when you talk about not to exceed time and material, well, we always talk about Agile has a functionality that we will be able to allow the customer to make changes. And we know changes can be done only during technically the demo period. Well, and changes can be done anytime, but not during the sprint. Well, that's what we got to keep in mind. During the sprint, we never make the changes. So customer is free to come back and tell, well, I want this, I want that, and I'm okay to make the changes. But what you do here in this not to exceed kind of model, you have like you've initially high level, we have agreed that, okay, the total budget will be like $50,000. That's the total budget for development. Now, if this clause has been included in your contract, now when we know that there is a option, we tell the customer, well, hypothetically, customer comes up with, say, 20 extra user stories. What we would generally ask, like, okay, will you tell me, like, let me go and ask my team and talk to my team and understand how much effort will be required to complete this 20 user stories. So we can tell you how many sprint will be required, how much effort will be required based on that estimation techniques. So we can, but here, if I use this method, I will not have the luxury to go and tell the customer, okay, for this extra 2 user stories, I'll require 5,000 more. No, you cannot do this. You cannot do this. So we will not be exceeding this 50,000. That is guaranteed. So here, if I've gone and used this contract, so I know for sure project cannot at any given point in time will not get cross 50,000 if I've used this clause. Now, if the customer wants to make a change, the only way the customer can change is by, and I'm not saying no, still it's Agile, we will only work with the replacement part. So we will replace, if you have to add 20 user stories, well, we'll try to see how much effort is required, and we will replace the low priority user story from the backlog, which will be equivalent to the effort required for 20. So if to do the job for 20 user story, probably I needed 1 sprint backlog and remove the user stories low priority, which is equivalent to one sprint work, and then I can put it. So here only replacement will work and not the extension of time. So you do not have a time like the option to extend the time because it's a new business. So we don't mind. You want to come back and ask me more, I'll do it. Ideally, that's what we do. But again, if you've used this clause, you cannot do that. You'll only have a choice of replacing because the budget cannot exceed. We have put a criteria that budget has to be 50. That means 50 or that's the final one. You can't exceed that. Now, when we talk about graduated time and material, this is purely based on the performance-based stuff. So the performance-based criteria can be awarded here. Like you will have an incentive slab, and which will be based on primarily the time part. Primarily time because like in Agile, time is the most critical factor. So that if we have a planned timeline that we will be able to release this app or application in about 6 months, and if you're able to do it in say 5 months, well, that's a good sign for me. The sooner the better. So there will be a clause which will talk about some sort of incentive slab, which says if you do it within this like a lesser period, so this is the extra money that you'll be getting on incentive or commission. And having said that, there will be a penalty clause also for late delivery. So if you do it early, you get obviously the extra commission and incentive. And if you have done the job late, because the Agile is all about timing, so then you will be penalized for that. So there can be rewards for like time related, can be quality related. So basically, this is where you try to get into a mode where it's related to the incentive kind of model we have for the predictive one. But your core will still remain the same. Your multi-tiered structure will be the same. These are more of like a additional add-ons. You can decide when and how you will be kind of customized. So it's more about add-ons to customize your contract according to your needs. This will always be there for every contract, whether it's a predictive or Agile, it will always be there. Early cancellation option. 100%. Well, it's quite possible, even if I'm talking about predictive or here, we will, okay, let's kind of take two different scenarios to talk about. Say, for example, I wanted to get like a e-commerce or e-learning, rather, e-learning portal designed and developed. And this e-learning portal was supposed to have, say, some course module related to Six Sigma. So we had a yellow belt course module, like a green belt course module, a black belt course module, a master black belt course module. We had a plan to do the project management thing. We had a plan to do AI related course. Practically, that was my plan for the releases. So now, when the job is going on, my initial plan was like, see, I have all the material related to this, but I don't have material. I have myself acquired this knowledge, and I really want to go and we have to create material for me to go and work on the AI part of it. Now, initially, when you had a contract and an agreement, we have already discussed about like this, all the thing which has to be released. Probably this was my release 1, this was my release 2, and this was supposed to be release 3. So we have a plan. Release 1 will launch all Six Sigma. Release 2 will all launch all the PMP stuff, and release 3 will be launching all the AI related stuff. Now, while the job was going on, you released it, and pretty much my website, my e-learning platform is live. People are buying it, and like we are selling it. Like it's just making money. I've started making money. People are buying the Six Sigma courses, and I'm really happy. And the workload has increased because yes, definitely I'm making money. Business is live, and by the time we are like people are using it, you end up developing the PMP module also. And now this has become out of my control because now there are a lot of like the business and the work also associated with it is coming to the customer. So now we never got a chance to kind of develop the content for AI. Now I go and tell these guys, see, I was not expecting this kind of like a volume of work. And given the thing, I don't think we will have time to develop AI kind of like the module. So I guess we are fine with the Six Sigma and PMP, and let's drop this release 3. Buddy, you had engaged me for the entire, the planning was done. So we are, as a customer, I want an early cancellation. I don't want this to be done. But again, I would have planned my resources and everything accordingly. Now, you just can't just pull me off just like that. Yeah, you can, but there will be an early cancellation option, and there will be some conditions. So if you as a client, you want to release it, well, we will be having a penalty clause, how much money you got to pay. You just can't leave, let's say one fine day, tomorrow you're not required. No, sorry, that's not going to work. So penalty clause will be definitely there. There will be some clause about your, like how many days in advance you should give me a notification. That sort of thing will be there. And that goes for the other way around also. I have a sponsor and this guy is absolutely irritating. I got into this contract assuming that we will be able to develop a good repo, but this guy has been really, really painful. And it's as a project manager, I don't think I will be able to just to maintain my mental sanctity. It's better off to pull off from this project. So I will exercise my early cancellation option. I will pay the penalty to the sponsor, and pretty much I'll get myself released. So there will be an advance notification so that in the meantime, the sponsor can get some other person who can do this job. So I will do the handover and pay the penalty and just move on out of this. So early cancellation options will be available in all these scenarios. In all the scenarios, it will be there, whether it's predictive or agile, because so you never, I always say never. Why? Because you never know. At times, sponsor might want to do early cancellation because it's no longer required. Well, whatever you would, like I was talking about, probably we are too happy with what we have got getting from, and probably I'm not even able to manage what I'm getting from Six Sigma and PMP. There's no point in getting in something which I don't have any idea. So, well, probably I might want to do early cancellation, or probably the project manager doesn't want to do it and just want to cancel this stuff. So there will be an early cancellation option, always going to be there, always. In predictive or agile, doesn't matter. It will be there. Gives both the parties, and both parties have to pay penalty. If you're bottom line, whoever wants to do early cancellation has to bear the cost, like the penalty. And whatever is the agreed penalty, we will discuss and agree, and negotiated one will be there. Next one, it says dynamic scope option. We do understand there will be certain stages in the project while we're working on where the changes customer will be making those changes and how frequently can the customer do this. At the demo, at every sprint gets over the demo, this guy tells me, okay, I have 5 more user stories. Next sprint ends, this guy says, I have 2 more user stories. Next sprint ends, this guy says, I have 10 more user stories. So this will keep on happening where this can happen. And here it sort of, obviously we don't want that too much of hassle happening. So if we know for sure, and when do we exercise this dynamic scope option, we're not saying no to changes, but we want to just control the changes to a certain limit, and we'll like to plan it at a certain interval. Well, we can decide when that change. So the changes duration, the plan can be done, which is with the planning that, okay, because if you're going to, like, if we are having the changes every week, every other week, then it's not like I'm not saying it's still not agile, but it is like a lot of changes are all happening. Again, you're looking into it and working this out. So we can plan a dynamic scope option, which can decide like a pre-decided date or probably time frame when changes can be allowed. So we can say, okay, the earliest you can do is, let's do one thing. Let's develop a complete feature. Once a feature is developed completely, then let's do and look at it if you want to add or remove something. So till the time a feature is getting developed, let's not make any more changes. So we can decide these things at a feature level, or we can say, okay, let's do one thing. Let's pick up a release one, complete the entire release one without any changes. So by the time my release one is done, then we can say, okay, you've got release 2 and release 3. Let's see, do you have any changes to be done? So we can plan the changes. So here it allows you to kind of have certain, I would say, like little long-term or rather planned like period when you will be making change. So either I can do a feature-based, when I say like let one complete feature get developed, and then we can say, okay, before we start a next feature, I want to know from you, do you want to make any changes? That will be a logical approach rather than changing every week or every other week, or for that matter, we say, okay, let's decide thoroughly what will be release 1. Let's do the complete release, and then we decide, okay, before we start release 2 and release 3, let's go back and look at it. Do you want to make any changes? So this gives you certain period when we'll decide decided, negotiated, that period can be done. So we have the changes are done not too frequently in this case, but yeah, we do allow changes. Last one is all about team augmentation, which is more about the rate card stuff we talked about. So here we say, okay, you want a website to be designed. You tell me like how many designers you need, how many developers you need, and all that. I'll provide you with the resources, and this is my rate card. You tell me how many people do you need. Well, what do I pay them? Well, then it's none of your business. Well, I may not be paying anything. They're all my relatives, my brothers and sisters, and they're doing the job. Well, bottom line, I don't pay. They're doing charity for me. That's none of your business. I am going to tell you it's TMM. Last one is TNM. Absolutely, Mr. Smart. The team augmentation is actually TNM. So the team augmentation is used in TNM, kind of time and material. So here you don't have a material kind of thing in Agile. So it's all about the team members you will be using here. Quick check on this one. Is it okay and clear? So these are add-ons, and yes, we'll customize those add-ons based on our needs and preferences. Quick check on this list. If it's okay and clear, anything needs more clarity, we can discuss it. You can see the material after day 5. Okay, give me one quick second here. Mr. Yusuf, okay, we have moved on to presentation. So initially, when we were talking about the material, when there's something we were working on Excel notes and stuff, there were notes shared there. But again, since then we have moved on to presentation. It's more on the presentation part. The things which were shared as and when something new elements were added, we have been moving it. We have been creating those folders. But otherwise, you don't need so initially we had the discussion about we did a discussion about the predictive part and all that. That's when we kind of created the Word file and all that. But initial part it's needed. But then you move on to presentation. You're not adding anything here. Yeah, Diana, please go ahead and can you please explain multi-tier? Okay, well, can definitely talk about it. So the contract is decided by. Contract is okay. So contract will always be decided by between the vendor and the legal team. We don't. The legal team. Yes, Diane, just give me one quick second. I'll just go and please unmute yourself.
Hello.
Yeah. Yes, Diana, please.
Yeah, I have 3 questions. First question about this agile contract type. You mentioned earlier or previously that agile is a doesn't need any documentation, only discussion. Is that correct? So
Well,
with
it's not
this
that we don't
contract
do
type,
documentation.
I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry to cut you short here. It's not that we don't do documentation at all in Agile, but we will always say that we prefer to have a conversation instead of preparing the documentation. Like, but this is to get somebody onboarded to get the job done. If you're getting a vendor, well, that will be handled by legal stuff. Well, because see, when we talk about the Agile thing, it's more about the people who are doing the job. Like, so the product team, which is sitting together, we don't get into those unnecessary paperwork and all. We will, like, it's not that we don't at all maintain some documentation, but we do not have the kind of planning and documentation required in Agile way of working. But to get somebody onboarded, that will be legal stuff, which will be definitely done. So it's not the job of a project manager or technically the Scrum Master to do this. It'll all be handled by the team which is going to look into the contracts part, which is technically the legal or the whatever the legal team which will be looking into contracts. So it's not that we will do it. So we don't have those regular documentation and planning which is done here. Like the otherwise, like we prepare. If you just think about what we have done in predictive, here there are no, like when Docker scope management plan, we have a requirement traceability matrix, we create a WBS structure, we prepare like the schedule management plan, we do all those planning. Here it's nothing of that. So those kind of documentation are avoided. But here we have like the team sits together. This guy wants to get the job done. The team is sitting together and they're doing the job. So we prefer to have a dialogue rather than focusing time on preparing presentation, documentation, all that. So it's not that we don't at all have, but we do have less of it and very less rather. And yes, this part is more about before somebody has actually started the work. If a vendor is involved who's supposed to do the job, we will be having the contract. That legal stuff will be handled by documentation only. But we don't do it.
Okay, we don't do it as a PM, right?
No.
Okay, for me to go through this contract type Agile way, is it also can they have this a multiple combination or just choose one?
Yes, that's what it's a. See, ideally the first one is a more of like a base. The first one is a base. The rest are combinations. Like, so you can, these are like add-ons. So you can choose whichever, like based on the agreement, based on the negotiation, which will happen. This is typically the base one. And then you can choose whether you're going with this kind of option, whether you're going with this one. So this is where this is the primary one, the primary structure. The base model for this Agile contract will always be this multi-tiered one, which is all about things which are crystal clear, which are fixed, like if in case there's a legal issue which happens, how that will be handled. So whether it doesn't matter, it's Agile or predictive, legal stuff will be handled as per the law. And that law is standard. So we will kind of write down all those things which will be standard in a master service agreement, because these are not going to change. It doesn't matter it's predictive or Agile, like disputes, like legal stuff will be all handled through like based on the law of the land. So for those things, we create a master service agreement. Like specifically, we'll be getting a lot of people who will be doing the job. This is more about the things which are about a rate card for various people who are going to be involved for the project, like the team members will be needing for doing this software development or website designing. So all those people, like, and we will have generally a rate card sort of thing which says 0 to like say 1 year experience or 1 to 5 years experience, that kind of based on experience, what is the pricing? And that's how the product owner knows, well, given my budget, how much budget I have and what kind of resource I should be picking up to get the job done, because there's a cost and the product owner controls the composition of the team. So because I would know, well, what is the price of particular resource? Well, I would not be utilizing a resource for doing, which is very expensive to do a clerical job there. I might want to use like people who are freshers, not too much of experience, cheap resources to get the basic job done. And when it's a critical stuff, I will rather require probably 1 or 2 hours of more experienced resources. So that is what we will be able to see from the variable list which we have, which is list more of a rate card here. And rest, every requirement will be a separate document which says statement of work, which is all about the requirements of the customer, which are bound to change. But so this is wherever the things will be absolutely changing, which is the last one, where we have a documentation which says this is the initial level of statement of work, which is basically the high level requirements given by them. And yes, that will keep on changing as the project goes on, which will manage through the backlog. So that will be how it is going to be done. Barring that, if you look at it, this is more from the payment side, more on the payment side, how the payments will be done. When you do it value delivery based, or you give the payments at like a user story level, or you have a limit assigned to the total like project cost, or pretty much you do like in terms of payment based on performances. So these are all payment related stuff, but the core rule, basically the guidelines which will be there are all in here. This is more about, you can choose, like this will always be there. But apart from that, you can choose whatever combination you want to create so which model this can become, the combinations can be created. As you said, yes, combination will be. So these are like add-on features which will be added to the agile contracts, depending on the agreement between the vendor and the legal team.
Okay, yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
For my last question, as a PM, when this contract is going to be presented to me, am I supposed to validate this, to agree, okay, go ahead with the project?
No. So I may have given my requirement to the procurement team that I need so and so resource, and they would have got me those resources. Now I wouldn't know what kind of contract they have been, like they have been, if somebody has been hired, I would definitely know what kind of agreement we have set with them. And so I'm not the one sitting and negotiating with them. I need my job to be done, basically whatever job they were hired for, and I would have my expectation done. So basically, I will get the job done, whatever I need to get it done. So with the payment stuff and all that will be handled by the team which procured, because that's not my area. I don't look into the payments part. So I will definitely I would have an idea what kind of contract this guy has been what has exercised with the team. And but my job is to kind of get the job done. I've got my resource. And what kind of legal contracts, what kind of agreements have happened, that's between this guy and the procurement team and the legal team. None of my business. And I don't want to get in there. I needed a resource. They provided me a resource. I'll get the job done. When I'm satisfied, I'll let them know this guy's job is done. He's delivered is what he was hired for. And pretty much I'm happy. And the customer has accepted this. It's a definition of done wise. This guy has delivered all the job and we no longer need this person. So they will go and pay this person as per the contract this guy has signed up with us.
Okay, so that's clear. As a PM, we are here to check the progress. Is that correct?
Yes, I need my job to be done. That's it. I may know what kind of person, like what kind of agreement this guy has come with in the team. This guy might have come with a certain job to be performed, and I am just concerned about my job delivery. That's it. I will get the job done, and rest of the thing will be kind of so I need to just make sure I notify them this person's job is over, because we are satisfied, all the job done. So, well, they can release and they can pay this guy and close the contract with this guy.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. I guess somebody also had a question about the Mr. Mahesh. Is it clear the multi-tier? Well, practically we just end up talking about this. Thanks to Diana. Okay, so these are basic ones. But keep this in mind. All in all, whenever we talk about this is the primary, which is basic. See, the first one talks about laws, basically laws, disputes, and how it will be handled. Second one talks about the rate card. Basically, we'll be having different kind of like a services which we'll be asking for from various and yes, there will be a lot of people based on their experiences. Their hourly wages, daily wages will be different. So this is where you have more of a rate card. Third one is more of a extra document which talks about the high level requirement, which is bound to change and rest how it will be managed through my backlog procedures. So this is the core one, and rest is all about how the payments will be done. So they would have agreed on either this kind of model or this kind of model or this kind of. So, well, you pick up whatever model is. So you do a cherry picking. Okay, we'll be working with this model. This will always be their early cancellation. So, well, they can do a mix and match and make their own custom. And yes, you might see more customizations. These are just a certain nomenclature given. We should know what this nomenclature means. That's it. Again, from exam perspective, we should know what this nomenclature means, and it'll be all fine, because any which is, as a project manager, we are not the one getting the vendor. We are not the one deciding whatever the conditions with the vendor. So I will be asking for resources. I will get the resource. I need to make sure this guy, which the resource is doing the job satisfactorily. When the job is done, as the work is completed, I will validate and verify the job is done. Pretty much, I'll release this guy. That's what I want to do, and I have to notify to the team that this guy's job is over. So that will come into the agile part. All in all, the core is this one, and rest will be add-ons, and depends on what kind of add-ons we'll work on. So ideally, whenever we talk about contracts, what will be the different elements? Is it all? The answer is no. Well, you will see so many contracts, and different companies have so many different types of contract. Ideally, what will be there? description of work, what needs to be created. That's what you hired for. The certain job has to be performed. If there's any specific, obviously there will be delivery date by when it needs to be done, what is going to be the schedule by when, if it's like a phase 1, phase 2, or like by what time. So you want to do it in like the overall delivery. So it may have like first part need to be delivered by this date, second part to be delivered. So if there is a schedule which is there, that will be mentioned in the contract. Well, during the job, when the work has been done, who do you report to? What will be like as a vendor? Who do you report to? What will be your authority, and where, like, who, if you have to take an approval, who do you have to take an approval from, and all those things. Well, contracts, when they're signed, you will always have the both parties involved. Here it will be the company who will be like contracting them. What is their roles and responsibility, and what is the roles and responsibility of the vendor will be documented there pretty much, so that there is no argument there. Well, given the job which needs to be done, well, what is expected from a technical or business aspect, what is being created, why it's being created, that will be there. Price and payment terms, those additional add-ons we talked about, those additional add-ons will be there. Provision of termination, the early cancellation options. Warranties and guarantees, that was the first option. Multi-tiered contract will be there. The first one was warranties, guarantees, legal stuff. Intellectual property is more about whether the item which is getting created here, will this guy be able to go and, like, say, for example, I'm designing a software for you. Why get the job done, and later on you come back and I'm making good millions of money, like, because you design, develop for me. I did a good marketing. I'm making good amount of money. Now, as a software developer, was this your creation? Yes, and you got paid for that, by the way. But yes, you can always come back and drag me to the court of law, because that item is your intellectual property right. And if we are not covered with intellectual property right, if you've not given me in writing that I will not go back and claim any rights or on this item which I create, well, practically there is a big risk to the company. I can come back and drag to the court, and you have to pay, because as a professional, that's the only thing I have. So practically you will be, when you sign a contract, you always get this job done, that whatever gets created, you will have zero, like you are giving 100% of your intellectual property rights. What do I do with that? That's none of your business. Now this is mine and you can't put a claim to it. That would be intellectual property right. And yes, when this guy would come into this kind of job, well, this guy will be able to understand a lot of companies' internals. Like, see, you as a person, this person will be interacting with a lot of people inside and you will get to know a lot of insight, like confidential information related to company. So I need to make sure this guy, while this person is doing the job, and even after this person is doing like when the person has left the job, the contract is over. But this guy will maintain the confidentiality, like basically will not divulge any kind of court secret of the company. Any information which is in public domain, it's okay, but will be looking into the data privacy part of it, because everyone is bound. You can't let customers' data be circulated everywhere. So, well, this guy has to kind of own up what all this guy has to comply with. If you get into contract, if you're going to do the job, you have to make sure that you have to take special, like you are equally responsible to maintain the data privacy part of it, and and not divulge information. You will get a non-disclosure agreement signed up with this guy, and all those things will be there. And again, is this all? The answer is no. Honestly, I have signed much more complex contracts. This is just nothing. So obviously, when you have a legal team doing the job, well, legal team is paid to make this documentation so huge that you feel like, oh, just kind of get it signed. Who is going to sit down and read? Well, honestly, that is the biggest blunder. Don't sign it. If it's a big paragraph, see, there's nothing that you can't read and understand. Honestly, it's so painful because these guys are so habitual of doing it. It's not a pain. And moreover, since they have done it already, they do a copy and paste. But they have certain set templates and documentation, they make it. But bottom line, for us, we are getting into contract, read everything. And if it's written something in the contract, doesn't mean that I have to say yes. Because contract means that both parties have to agree. Nobody is bigger or smaller. When you get into contract, you're delivering a job, you're getting paid. Nobody is doing a favor. So when you have a contract and you read a contract, some clause is not acceptable, just not acceptable. Simple as that. I don't work. Well, I'll not rather kind of talk about anyone else. Like, in our world, when you talk about this consulting and specifically the training part, for that matter, when you do these corporate trainings, there are companies, and I'm talking about the big companies, there are the payment terms. Like, so if I delivered the training today and I get the job done, be the PMP training or Six Sigma training, the payment terms in the industry right now is like 90 to 120 days. So you get paid, you complete your training, you raise the invoice, and you get paid after 90 to 120 days. Well, till date, by God's grace, till I touch wood or whatever you can say, I have never ever agreed to any contract. Well, every contract comes with this kind of frame. I say, well, that's your terms. I don't agree. Well, that's your term. Well, you may be, as an employee, obligated to follow your company policy. I'm not your employee. That's not my terms. Well, bottom line, I don't agree. Well, if you want somebody to do the job and wait for 90, 20 days, well, get the job done. I don't do it. It's not my terms. Well, that's our standard contract. I said, this is my standard contract. Bottom line, till date, it's that you got to understand what is written in those documents is not hard-coded, because it's obviously it's going to favor them. They have created it and it's absolutely okay to tell them you can't. Contract means equal. Both parties should have agreed. It's not that one person has it's a one-sided contract. So you got to put your foot down and say, well, bottom line, this is done. And trust, and I have every company, I've seen people just agree because it's there. They will give you a rebuttal. No, this is what we do. And I said, right, fine. Just go and find somebody who can do it. At least I don't do it. Well, I work within maximum 7 to 15 days. Worst case, 15 days. It can't be 16 days. If it happens 16 days, we'll take you. Well, bottom line, it is document you. I will sign a contract when it is maximum 15 days. And you got to be clarifying it's 15 calendar days or weekdays. Bottom line, and this is how, because you got to put your foot down. So contracts are supposed to be both-sided. It just can't be said one side. And people, unfortunately, at times when people generally, when you don't get work, well, you end up saying yes to everything. And that's what these people definitely take advantage of. But again, all in all, there will be tons of contract, and it's good to read every single thing, because there will be a lot of clauses inserted there. And that can be one word here and there will make a big difference. So take time whenever you get into contract, take time, read it probably 100 times, but because don't sign anything unless and until you are 100% sure it's not going to hurt you back. So it's important, but because they will always exercise the contract as per their what is favorable to them. So get into the habit of reading contracts. It could be very, very dangerous if you get into contract without knowing what you're getting into. Signing a paper doesn't work that way. So avoid that. Again, I would always say that. Moving on to the next element, which is about budget. And our budget will be about one more baseline we will be talking about. And budget, remember, we talked about two types of things we have to look into. We had certain, the project, actual cost is calculated. And then you have contingency reserve, which is for identified risk. And you have a project baseline created. So just want a quick reiteration of what we already discussed. So, and you'll see that's all you'll see here. So you have actual cost. So actual cost of what? Let's say what will be the actual cost, because you're talking about cost, right? So cost of raw material, cost of the labor, cost of probably the utilities, the facility we're using, any kind of equipment, machinery. That's the actual cost, right? Whatever the actual cost. This is the actual cost plus the identified risk that you've identified, and that is contingency reserve. When you do this actual cost plus the contingency reserve, this will become cost baseline. Once this is frozen, it's final. Anything deviating from this will be required change request. Now, this cost baseline plus management reserve will become the project budget. Project budget has the management reserve, which is for unidentified, unexpected risk, because for expected and identified risk, you already have contingency reserve. For unthinkable, unforeseen things, will have management reserve. We'll see that in a moment. All of this, that's all you have in here. There's nothing much. Let's see. So it's going to talk about we have in case of predictive, we work with a budget. We have a cost baseline created here. We can make the changes through this change control process. We know the change requesting because it's a baseline. Hybrid, pretty much you understand hybrids mix and match both. You have predictive part will still handle with predictive. Agile will be handled through agile methods. Bottom line, there's nothing here. So while we're talking about the cost part of it from an agile perspective, we typically use this term called burn rate. What is the word? It tells you the answer. Well, burn rate means at what rate we are consuming the funds. At what rate you're consuming the funds. Whatever the financial resources you have, at what rate? What will be this burn rate be if you talk about an agile kind of framework? What all things will impact your burn rate? Well, number of people. But more number of people, you'll end up like so. If I had a budget for the agile part of it, say the budget was $100,000. So if how do I know what's my burn rate? At what rate I'm burning this $100,000? Number of people, number of resources. Well, you will look at the experience of resources, basically their wages, daily wages, where that will be impact. How many hours of each person? Well, if you have an experienced person doing like 8-hour shift kind of thing, then they'll be more expensive. So you got to keep in mind, depending on my team composition, based on my team composition, the number of resources, my burn rate will increase or decrease. So if I have to control my burn rate, if I'm burning my money too fast, I will try to control the number of people. I'll be very careful about that, and I will try to play with the experience. Basically, there's a rate card, remember? So I might want to get the job done by somebody who's a little cheaper. So my burn rate gets, so if I'm burning the money fast, I will try to pull it back by getting the job by people who are little inexpensive, because I have to manage my project budget. So because there could be contracts where I have a fixed budget. Remember, we have fixed amount not to exceed, which is 50,000, and that's all you have. So all you have is 50,000. So I can't let it run and finish this up as soon as possible. I have to make sure the job gets done within 50,000. So I will make sure this work is done in 50,000. I will control my burn rate. So burn rate is more about, we'll see the components of burn rate as we move forward. But all in all, it is the money, at what rate you're finishing the money. And that will be dependent on the number of people involved in here. So which is primarily the number of people and the salaries they're drawing. So you've got younger people, like freshers, inexperienced person, you will be having lesser burn rate. If you have highly experienced people, their number of hours are high, you will be seeing a higher one. Is the management reserve also our margin? No, you don't get to see that, Mr. Yusuf. It's just good to see, good to know, and we'll never be able to exercise that. So it's something. So our job gets done at the budget part of it, which is the baseline. Management reserve, we just know that's there, but you don't get to see that. You'll never be able to see that. Well, because you'll never be able to exercise that technically. Let's have a quick look at this one. So in a predictive world, we have a cost management plan, which is about guidelines, rules, how the cost will be managed, and all that. Basically, we'll look into the actual cost, the contingency reserve will be done. So plan is about how will you do that. So basically employ estimation techniques. We know the estimation techniques, basically the same one. We have 4 types of estimation techniques in predictive. The analogous estimation, you have 3-point estimation, parametric estimation, and bottom-up estimation. 4 estimation techniques. Do whatever you want, but at least use some method to estimate the cost. And yes, you when have your cost baseline, it will help you to manage and monitor the cost. Why? Because we'll be doing calculation called CPI, cost performance index, which will help us understand, are we ahead of the budget, are we below the budget, are we on budget? Well, basically that will be, and yes, if that gets, so this helps you to measure the performance, and this includes, remember this baseline includes contingency reserve for identified risk that you've identified. You kept some budget for that. What if it happens, like a rain, strike, some bottom line, those kind of things we would have captured some budget for that, because there are things which I know can happen. And yes, they can only be changed through change control process. The maximum limit of your baseline is called budget at completion, maximum limit. So if my budget looks like this, so if I start from here and that's my budget, this is what the total budget, say $200,000. We will start from here. The expected is the project goes on, the project will be consumed, the budget will be consumed here. As the project goes on, it will keep on consuming. And by the end, our overall budget will reach, this is the cost baseline maximum limit. And so maximum limit of the cost baseline, this is called budget at completion, BAC. The BAC is the highest point of baseline. Highest point. So the maximum point, maximum point or highest point of your cost baseline will be called as a budget at completion. Let's see an image. They'll show you image, and very, very, very bad images, by the way. We will see. This is one important thing we will be talking about now. But before there's a term called here funding limit reconciliation. We need to talk about this separately. Funding limit reconciliation. Okay, it includes management reserve cost also. Which one? BAC, no. Budget at completion is the baseline, maximum limit of baseline, but not. Management reserve is project budget. If we look at the image here, this is your cost base. If I look at the image, this is what it tells you. So I need to talk about this term separately, which is funding limit reconciliation. I have to do some bit of sketching here, but again, we'll talk about that. funding limit reconciliation we'll talk about later, but let's see. That's the cost baseline. That is cost baseline. Maximum point of cost baseline is called budget at completion. This includes this budget, this BAC. It includes contingency reserve. This includes that. Plus management reserve will be equal to project. So budget, the cost baseline plus management reserve is the project budget. That's what it is. So management reserve, you will never be able to touch. So forget about it, you will never have it. So our job is to deal with your maximum limit is BAC, which is cost baseline. Is this clear for now? I have to, if it's okay, then we will talk about what is this funding limit reconciliation. Is it fine with everyone? Quick check on this one, because that we have to do some bit of sketch work for funding limit reconciliation. All right, let's then go ahead and talk about funding limit reconciliation then. Some bit of sketch work, let's start. So I'm just trying to go and sketch some timeline here for, say, hypothetically a project, and I'm going to go back to 2023 so that I can explain this one here. So this is, say, year 2023, and this is the month of Jan. We have the month of Jan here, and that starts from Jan and goes till, let's call it December here. That is December, the end of December. This is 2023. So every year there are some budget. There's some budget which is released for doing the projects, and so we have a project budget allotted for 1 year. And this is, say, every year we have the company policy say like we will be doing. It's a manufacturing company or production. They do the production, but they do allocate certain budget for projects, and the project is like every year, hypothetically $100,000. We have a plan to kind of keep $100,000 so that we also continue to do some improvisation. Some projects are carried out. So this 100,000 is supposed to be used in the entire year to do multiple projects. Now what happens is like people who are doing projects. Now I am referring to this month here. Say, let's call this October. This is the month of October, where October 2023, where your project got started. A new project got started. This project is supposed to be for 6 months. So let's call this October till here, November till here, December till here. So October, November, December. And then this is Jan, Feb, and March. That's the March. This is going to be March 2024. And this is how this project is supposed to go on. And this is next year. Like I said, typically from here onwards, you have next year, which is like, say, this is December 2024. Like next year budget, 100,000 will be available. Bottom line, every year has 100,000 available. Now, this is a project. This is a project. Please keep this in mind. The project we picked up here, which is going to be for 6 months, starting from October till March. This is a 6 months project. And you know, this is a government project. Some regulatory project, and time is a constraint. You cannot exceed this. 31st of March, this project has to be released, roll out. It has to happen. You can't exceed. This is government requirement, some regulation stuff, and you cannot violate this timeline. Do whatever you want, put extra resources, do whatever you want. You cannot exceed. This is a constraint we're working with. We know for sure there's no way you can, otherwise your company will be shut down. So some compliance requirement has to be met here. This first 2023, we had 100,000, and hypothetically at this stage, I have already consumed in this from Jan till October, like September end, Jan till September end, we already consumed $80,000 out of it. Already 80,000 is finished. Let's make it. So this 80,000 is already over. So I don't have, now 80,000 is over. We have consumed it. We left with 20,000 for this year. 20,000 is balance. And as per the plan, like the plan was about 10,000, 10,000, 10,000, 10,000, 10,000, 10,000. That's how the plan was. About $60,000 will be spent to complete this project. And as per the plan, it looks like I need from October till December, I need $30,000, and I only have $20,000. So I'm short by 10,000. So we have $10,000 less in this year because already consumed 80,000. 3 months, 30,000, 10,000 per month. Then you got 20,000 only. So now big problem is, well, how do I get this 10,000? Well, is it possible? Just a quick check. Is it possible? Because we know January onwards, we'll have a new fresh 100,000 available. So can I pull a 10,000 from 2024 to 2023 to get the job done? Is it possible to do? Because I know the project will be going on and we'll just get the job done. We'll pull the item at least, because can I do this? I don't have money this year, but I will have, starting January, I'll have fresh 100,000 available for 2024. So can I pull this item, this money in the 2023? The answer is, in case of financial world, the answer is crystal clear, no. This is just not possible. In financial world, you cannot do this. You can't pull a future money in, like 2024 money can't be pulled in 2023. Future, it's supposed to happen in future. You can't pull that. Financial world, it doesn't happen. It cannot be done. Now, so nutshell, you have a constraint number two. A constraint number two. Constraint number one was already the time, which is why you are struggling, because now I know for sure. See, one thing we could have done easily. Get the 2 months job done. 20,000 you have. Spill out, like let the project end by change request. Let the project get over in the month of April. So we could have pushed out 1 month because we don't have money. What we can do, we can just get the 2 months job done and get it finished in the month of April, which we cannot do because there's a constraint 31st March. Well, 31st March, you have to get it done. So you've got two constraints here. A, you can't exceed the time. B, you don't have the money to run here. So what we will do, and this is what we call as funding limit reconciliation. So given the constraint, I have only 20,000. So I honestly only, so that is all money we have. And like right now, I don't have the money to even use the contingent reserve. In this, my concern is that this year period of 2023, I have 3 months to do, and I have only 20,000 balance in the kitty. That's the only money I have because we already exhausted 80,000 here. And my projects just started and now only 20,000 left. I have to get 3 months job done. Now, this is where the concept of funding limit reconciliation comes into picture. We know for sure there is no way we can do this. What we do is we look for the task which can be shifted here. Some tasks which will be shifted here from each month, so that equals to like a 1 month sort of work. So we are moving about, because we short by 10,000. So we'll at least try to shift 10,000 worth of work in the following month, like, because I can only pay for 20,000. So I can get the job done for 20,000. So I have to move work worth of 10,000 out of this 30,000 in the month of Jan, Feb, and March. Now that means that if I move 10,000, my project will end in the month of April. That's where it'll end, because I'm going to be moving this 10,000 from here to here. So I'll get the job done for 20,000. I'll move the 10,000 worth of work here, which is a constraint. But again, for bottom line, I'll get the 220 this job done first. Now, since I can't let it go here, so I have to get it done by the month of March. I can't go till month of April. So what options do I have here now? Bottom line, I have 20,000. I get that 20,000 job done because I moved 10,000 in 2024. Then I'll have money. Starting January, I don't have a problem. Full 100,000 is available. What will I do? Because I need to get it done by March. But because so we have 100,000 freshly available here. Crashing, yes, absolutely. That's what you wanted to hear here. This is what you will be doing. Bottom line. Now this is a fresh month. Money is not a problem here. So I will pull the item. I will, because I know that there's a constraint. I can't do it in the month of April. I have to pull it back. So I know I have to get within next 3 months, I have to get the job done for 4 months. Within the time of next 3 months, I have to get the job done for 4 months. So I've got time for 3 months, but job has to be done for 4 months. What will I do? Both the jobs we already know. Either I'll do fast tracking or I'll do crashing. And yes, by doing a fast tracking crashing, will you require extra work? Yes. Will you be doing overtime? Yes. Compression techniques will come into picture. And yes, you will have to, because you will have full 100,000 available, you can utilize that because there's a risk which is all in. So while you plan for this, you will put a contingent reserve and for this extra budget, because you will be doing this, because you know for sure, we will plan this. When you're going to plan, you know for sure the moment I get into 2024, I will be doing this 3 months, like 4 months job in 3 months. So this extra work will require extra people, overtime hours. The contingent reserve will be parked for that. And yes, so that I may, because I have to go and pay 40,000, because technically the work is for 40,000. I'll have to pay 40,000 next year. And plus, because I will be doing this extra overtime and all that. So probably another $5,000 worth of extra work because the overtime hours will be more expensive and all. So that will be contingency reserve extra budget, because any which ways I'm done only 20,000 spending here. So 40,000 will be spent as a result of actual work. And probably this is because of overtime and extra work we were doing. Because of doing this faster work, there will be a lot of defects, rework done. We know for sure, because we will be doing 4 months job in 3 months. So definitely it will result in defects, rework, unnecessary, like there will be loss. But again, we'll kind of factor in this contingency reserve. And yes, my budget for like next year, well, practically this will be out of 100,000. I will end up eating up 45 from this. 40 was actual, 5 because I know for sure when I'm going to plan, I'll plan this extra budget for this. This is what we refer as funding limit reconciliation. You're reconciling the funds. Right now, you don't have it, so you put it there. But again, you reconcile and kind of look into it. You will see here you're planning it in the planning part only. So you're doing this all in the planning part. So when you're doing it in the beginning, when you're sitting and planning for it, I know I have less money, so I'm planning it. It's variation, not. It is not variation, it's in the planning. The execution has not happened. It's just still the plan. You're planning it this way only. So you have got, well, I will get the job done. And then in that period, I will be doing I will get the work speeded up. So either you do a fast tracking or crashing. And for that, I will also plan for extra budget. It's still the planning, not the execution. Whatever execution will happen, we'll see to it, because that will be actual. But right now, this is the planning. In my planning, I've included this extra budget because I know I have to do this. Is it clear? I hope it's making sense, because I don't have the money. I have to push the work. When I can't delay it, so I have to pull the work again. So for that, extra money will be required, extra people will be required, and that will be requiring the contingency reserve for that extra. Well, no, this is already in the plan. Bottom line, remember, this is the planning part. We have not executed it. This stage is still the planning part. You're putting this in the plan. There's no way to waste elimination techniques, to manage the work efficiency. What we will be doing, Mr. Kumar, Mr. Syed, we will be doing that because while they're doing a fast tracking and crashing, because we are expecting there will be losses. We are expecting, while we may have kind of done this, because we expect there will be losses there. Because we will be doing it faster, might have to do a lot of rework because you're doing it faster. Defects will be created, and that's why we want to make it more efficient. So yes, so my quality metrics. So I will try to make sure this 5,000 is not spent. All the losses we have baked in already as a result of, we believe there will be a lot of reworks done. I will try to go and use my Lean Six Sigma knowledge to bring it down and make sure it doesn't create a defect there. Okay. So I hope that's clear. So we will be doing it. Why can't it be done in the first quarter? What's first quarter? 3 months job. Okay. You only have 3 months job. Like, see, you have got 3 months here available. Diana, you only have 3 months available here, and you have 4 months worth of work to be done in 3 months, because you have done 2 months work. One month work has been pushed here. So ideally, it should end in April, but you have to pull it back and get the job done by the month of March. So 4 months work will be done in 3 months. Because that's a government, that's a government thing. There's a constraint you're working with. Change request will come into picture when you end up taking more. Absolutely, Tushar. When you even reach that, there will be change request. When you breach that, there will be change request. If you end up taking more money than that, then you have change request. Is it correct to say that 1 month here is no work? Absolutely yes, because you don't have a choice here. You're right about that, Mr. Amjad. I will have to do it slow. The moment I get into Jan, I will be doing a catch up. Because I don't have money. It will be. That's what we will be. So we are going into this mode, and trust, it's planned mode. So while we do the job, we will be working slow and as per this plan. And I will, starting the month of Jan, I will be doing a catch up, because I have to get the job done. Within 3 months, I have to do 4 months job. So it is planned. And it's not execution. Why can't I use reserves in December itself? December, well, this is all done. So the overall budget, the project budget we had, which has all the reserves, it's already in there. It's all consumed. Well, that's what you have got, 80,000. You don't have the money for this month. Say, technically for a calendar year, that's the money which is allocated for doing the project. So you don't have the money, you don't have the money. That's why. So when you don't have the money, you have to kind of get the job done. Well, next year I'll have full, so I don't have a problem. Next year I can utilize it. But right now I don't have the money. So you kind of play with the money to kind of like reconcile. That's what is the funding limit reconciliation, because you have limits. And yes, just kind of reconcile given the scenario you have here in. You try to go and play with that to just safeguard yourself again, because based on the variations, it might we might get into trouble. So we can't use this as an option. Like, so ideally, whenever we need money, again, if you have money, you can always use it. If you don't have it, then you have a problem. You will be doing some bit of reconciliation by pushing the work whenever you have the money available. Is it possible to hold the payment of a supplier? No. Mr. Syed, again, that will be a problem. Again, I will not be doing it legal, ethically. Ethically, it's not right. Again, project management and that option, if you get, and honestly, Mr. Syed, good that you brought this up. If you get a question like that and this is an option, if this is an option given to you, never ever choose this option. Why? Because it's ethically wrong, against the moral practices of the project manager. We should not be doing it. Why would somebody's payment be delayed? Again, that could lead to legal consequences also. If we end up kind of delaying somebody, whatever as per the legal contract, well, we have to pay it. If the contract says you have to pay it immediately, we'll have to pay it immediately. If the law contract says after 1 month, then you pay after 1 month. So just because we had a crunch, we cannot let somebody else suffer. I mean, that'll be wrong. So even if you have a question like this in some scenario like that, never choose this as an option, because it's not logically right, because it's my problem. I'm making somebody else suffer. It's not right. So we'll not do that. We'll never do that. To be honest here, we'll never do that in that case. Okay. We will utilize the budget given, not to ask. No, you will not never get an advance. If that within the year you don't get an advance, like, so next year money cannot, you can't prepone the money. You can always postpone the money you can postpone. You can't get it from future and use it today. You can always push today's money tomorrow, but can't get it. The future money cannot be brought in today. Bottom line, estimation techniques, we already know. The historical analogous estimation technique, we know that. Look at historical data, lessons learned, and you get the idea how much money I was spent, how it was spent. You can always use that. That's the best option. Otherwise, you have your other methods of kind of doing it, which is, we all know other methods. Best option will always be the analogous method. If you have it, nothing better than that. Okay, give me one quick second. 1 second. Okay, so quick, more of a like a recap for us of our project part. Here we'll talk about predictive one. We know how do we do it. We use agile estimation techniques and all. This is the one. Like, let me just go back here. This is the one. After this is the agile. This is the analogous estimation techniques. We should, if you want to do estimation, we can use the analogous estimation. If you have it, better. Otherwise, you can always use those other methods of parametric, 3-point, and all those to estimate the cost. Having said that, now we get to the resource part of it. So here we pretty much look at from managing the resources. The project manager is the one who's kind of utilizing. This guy is the one who's the decision maker here. What kind of resources are required in terms of human resource, non-human resource, and will be kind of utilizing those resources. Given I have to keep in mind the cost also. So the project manager does the job of controlling the resources as and when, because I will require resource when I need them. I'll release the resource when I don't need them. It is based on my skills. Like if I'm talking about a human resource, I will let the procurement team know about the kind of resource I need. If that resource can be like a cheaper resource, I will give, because based on how much money I have to play with, keeping in mind the cost part of it, I will let them know that's my budget for this particular resource. So all that is handled by the project manager in terms of kind of controlling the resources here. Well, the non-human resources, and as far as the resource which are like human resources, we will be kind of the project manager is supposed to look into all that resource calendar and see, do you have available resource or not, or you have to kind of coordinate. So all that job is managed by the project manager. So resource management, resource cost will pretty much be kind of planned based on the cost which you, like how much budget you have and how much you have planned. So it'll all go into the planning part. So in predictive, we don't have a problem. And agile, we simply don't have a problem at all. Why? Because agile, we use very lightweight estimation. Here, it's too much of hassle. In predictive, you've got to do all this estimation techniques, look into different kind of costing. Agile, how do you decide the cost? Let's see the ease of doing the cost estimation in case of agile. Let's see this quick example for this. Give me 1 quick second. Let me just grab a glass of water. Okay, perfect. Now, let's understand, this is the formula. That's all we have to look into. How agile cost will be estimated. We don't want to be 100% accurate. We want to estimate or predict the the cost which will be required. So pretty much how we go about doing it. Let's say this is my backlog, current backlog. I have got, say, 200 user stories pending right now, which have to be completed. 200 user stories are pending. And so far, we have already done, say, sprint 1. We have done sprint 2. Let's say we have done sprint 3. 3 sprints are over. If I look at these 3 sprints, I look at it and I find that I have done about 50 user stories in these 3 sprints. 50 user stories have been completed, which is congratulations, it's a good job done. And now we talk about these 50 user stories. We look for the how many people, like whatever the number of resources. With sprint 1, probably we had different kind of resources. Sprint 2, we had different kind of resources. So sprint 3, we had different. So what we will do is we'll try to find out the total salary paid to the people, whatever salary we have paid to the people around this, like for these 3 sprints. Hypothetically, I'm just saying we had $200,000 paid to the people here. $200,000 which were paid to the people in these three sprints. And since you paid about 200,000, well, what is basically the number of, remember we talked about story points yesterday. So basically we look at in all these 3 sprints, how many story points did we complete? So we complete, say hypothetically 50 story points were completed. So if I look at the total salary paid to the people during this period, which is sprint 1 to 3, was about 200,000. And within these 3 sprints, we have completed about 50 story points. Hypothetically, just trying to say. So what is the maths here? What is the cost for single story point? $4,000 is what we have paid per story point. So if in this 3 months, 3 sprints, so you've paid about 200,000 and you've completed only 50 story points. So for single story point, you have paid about $4,000. The expense that you made is about $4,000 here for per single story point. Now, if you know that's a cost for single 4,000 or 5, it will be 4,000, right? Because it's 50, right? I guess 4,000 story points. If this is 200, oh, it's 50. 5, 4, 20. 5. This is 25. I said 200,000. That's okay. Please pardon me for my writing. This is 200,000. 200,000 divided by 50. This is 4,000. If you give it 25, then it'll be different, obviously, which is fine. Again, so the cost for a single story point is calculated. Now I see how many story points have to be completed. 200 story points. So I know the cost of 200 story points have to be done. For a single story point, we have been spending 4,000 here. So what will be the expense now, given that how much more money will be required? So we will require whatever this is. This is the money that 800,000 more will be required to finish these many, whatever backlog you have. So we will be kind of going ahead and looking into it. So initially we have it tells you to a projected one. It tells you to understand the projected by like how much will be required here. The 800,000 will be required for this one. Okay. Plus, and additionally, it talks about some additional expenses. So look at this. It's first of all says sum of all the salaries paid during the period that we had. Sum of salaries paid divided by story points for that interval, story points. So you got the cost work. You get to know cost per point. That's what you got, 400,000. This 4,000 was cost per point. Now, when you have that cost per point, you look for cost per point, which is 400,000, multiplied by the story points in the item to be completed. 200 more. So that will be done, which is what we get. Plus other expenses. What will be other expenses? Like license requirements, monthly, probably some software license fee or has to be paid, whatever. Some additional expenses which could be there, which is what your forecasted budget. We're looking at forecasted budget. How much more, given that you have got 200 left, how much more will be required? So this is where when the job has been done, they kind of look into, based on the current work which is going on, which they try to go and understand how much, given that current rate, how much more will be required at the rate we are doing the work here. Again, let me just quickly go back and check this couple of minutes. Just allow me. Excuse me for a question about funding limit. Will this technically lead to revision of the schedule as well as the salary? No, Mr. Abdullah, we will be planning it. See, it is okay. Let me just kind of. So while we are talking about the funding limit reconciliation part, that was about we will be planning that already. So it's not the execution. So they are planning it that way, and accordingly, we'll be adjusting our resources here. So it is going to be, everything will be planned accordingly. It's still that plan. So in my plan itself, I will plan that in the first 3 months, I'm going to get the job done for 2 months only. So work will be slow. Work will be done lesser. So, well, there will be days we'll not be working because we'll be doing only 2 months of work in the first 3 months. So my planning is going to be done that way. So it will be, and accordingly, whatever plans will be required, every plan will get impact. I'll get less resources in the first 2 months because I don't have money to pay them. I'll not onboard those resources, which are like bottom line. I will only play with the $220,000 which I had there. It will be planned accordingly. And Mr. Samir, what about the beginning of this project? We will be doing that. See, when you talk about even in the sprint part of it, we remember we had a small user story or medium user story that we would have captured. We could, well, even in this also, when you want to know the beginning of Agile, how would they have estimated? So if we have a backlog, would I be doing this estimation? Like how many small user stories, how many medium user stories, how many large? I can do that, right? I can decide based on my small user story, what is the cost for a single user story, like a small one? What is the cost for medium? What is the cost for last and large? If I have 10 user stories small, like I've got say we have got say 50 large list small user story, 20 this one, 10 this one. If I know the cost for a single small, what is the cost for single medium? What is the cost for? I can do that estimation. That could be my initial one. So that estimation techniques, again, will be. This is more from forecasting part of it. When you're looking at the work is going on, initially I would have already had a plan. But again, as the work is going on, want to look into it. Very lightweight estimation are done in Agile. Is it okay and clear? The salary part, basically, you find out how much you have paid and what were the work done. So you get to know the cost for a single story point, how much you pay. So you look at how many story points are pending, you multiply with that. Okay. Let's go and check this out. Quick one. Let's have a quick look at this one here. This is what you include. And as if you recall, I talked about this rough order magnitude and all that. That was there in initial days, probably in the Excel, the Word file we had. But anyways, to estimate the cost, what do you do? Direct labor cost, material cost, equipment cost, facilities cost, service cost, IT cost, and then it says contains reserve. That will be planned cost. And initially, when the projects are started, remember when there's this gentleman, which is the business analyst, and they would have discussed initially high level planning would have been done because the customer requirements were not known. Customer requirements have no idea. Like they would say, okay, we're doing a project, so there will be tentatively this much of cost will be required. So the initial estimates, which were idly given, we say the actuals, whatever will come in actual, you will see that as estimates given by the business analyst will idly fall in this range. This is called rough order magnitude, ROM. Rough order magnitude is what is idly created before the project has started because you don't have the requirement. You don't have the customer. So the customer requirements will be captured during the scoping part. When you do the scoping, you want to know the requirement. You do create requirement traceability matrix. That's when you get the requirement. So initially, before the business analyst is having a discussion, they will have a high level discussion done and they will come up with tentative, this much of cost will be required. So their cost, what they say, whatever cost they would have said, that would be somewhere in the range of -25 till +75. If you create that range, the actual cost of the project will fall anywhere between this range. So practically for that, if you look at their prediction. But when the project is going on, what is prepared by the project manager, the cost baseline, the actuals which will be spent will fall in the range of definitive range, which is -5 to +10%. That's the range of your definitive. So, well, in the examination, what people generally get a question is, well, we are using ROM. In ROM, the range of ROM is -5 to +20%, -15% to +15%. So you would have to select the right option. What is the right option? So you have to memorize these two numbers for sure. This is all what you get to. So what you keep this in mind. Rough order magnitude is before the project and definitive estimate is during the project. And that is where it gets closer because when you continue to do the job, we talk about progressive elaboration. So as you're doing the project, you get more clarity. So your estimates will become very close to the actual one. But when initially you had no idea, so the business analyst has given a rough order. The project will be the cost will be anywhere between these two values. So something which will be a big range, but as the project goes on, the range gets narrower and narrower. So that's why we talk about definitive estimate. Is it possible to have calculated in the exam? It's given, but I didn't get the question. Is possible we have to calculate in the exam as it's given multiple lines? Well, you will not be, you will be required, you will have an option of on-screen calculator, but you will not be required to have these many calculations as such done. We will have basic calculations which will be required in the end. We'll talk about those methods when you do the calculation, but they're very simple ones, so not complex ones. You don't need too many calculations, but yes, you'll have an on-screen calculator. Certain increase in the cost of direct labor or estimated. That will be picked up from contingency reserve because you would have planned for that. Yes, Mr. Syed, 100% correct. Because there will be expected that there will be cost of material or labor cost may get increased, and that will be part of contingency. You will definitely plan for it. 100% yes, you're right about that, without any doubt. Okay, is it okay with everyone, this one? But again, please do memorize this because they will be straightforward. There's no calculation here. It just, you have to mug up this because this is the range which is used. Pretty much before, this is before the project, this is during the project, which is when the project is going on. The range will get compact. Okay, that's all ahead. Same picture. Let's have the same picture we already know, but good to again quickly talk about. Work or this is actual cost. Actual cost plus the contingency reserve. So whatever the actual cost and this is this portion. That's what is called your cost baseline, and cost baseline also contains the contingency reserve, and this is the actual cost. This two together will be called cost baseline. The overall thing is cost baseline. Now you take the two overall thing as cost baseline, and on top of it add management reserve, and that all together will be called project budget. So pretty much we know all that element. Somebody was paid to create more and more slides, but again, that's how it looks like. There's nothing much different. In case of agile, pretty much we know how the budgeting is done. Where we do short-term budgeting, we don't go too far. So while because agile is all about kind of we're dealing with the sprints. We don't go too far because see the resources have to be planned so we don't go too far. We will always work with smaller cycles. So because if I'm doing a sprint one, the resources required here could be different because the kind of development I'm doing here. Sprint 2, I may be doing a different kind of work out here. So my team members could be a little different from here. So we don't plan too much. So whatever kind of resources we need here, that will be planned. And who plans that? The product owner will decide. Well, basically the kind of job which will be done here will accordingly, the product owner will control the resources here at the stage, and accordingly the budget also. The cost will automatically get controlled when the cost of resources will be sort of defining the burn rate here. And if I say this here, it's more heavy duty work is going to happen, so I need more experienced people. So probably there will be cost will be higher. So we don't plan a lot of it here. So yes, it is done on a short-term basis rather than long-term because that's how agile works. We try to go and get the job done. We should plan for a certain period, which is typically a sprint, and we work within that period. Technically, we don't go too far. We don't plan to. This sprint could be very different from another sprint, and sprint 3 could be another different. So we go sprint by sprint, and we don't try to plan too far because it's illogical to do that. So the cost is always based on that resource period, because when I'm doing the project, depending on what sprint we are in, how many people are working on that during that sprint, the cost per sprint will vary. So yes, we look at the cost based on the period. So whenever we were calculating that salaries for given period, because that period, every sprint might have different. So yes, it will be taken from a certain period. It don't go too far. So we know for sure, because depending on what kind of work has been done, number of people deployed in a particular sprint, my salaries will vary here. So primarily that's how it works. When we talk about hybrid, again, practically there's no other rule. Why? Because the predictive part will be handled through predictive method. Agile part will be handled through agile method. Every sprint for not 2 months, too short. Sprint 2 weeks. These are weeks. 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks. Most common is 2 weeks. Yeah, that's how it is. It's fine, buddy. So predictive, one be predictive, agile will be agile. So predictive part, you will do your all estimation techniques. We talk about historical data, look at all that stuff. And agile will be handled through your planning poker and all that. We know how do we estimate part. Basically, that's what has been explained here. So you go and do the Fibonacci series estimation, and you get to know tentatively how many small user stories are there, how many medium user stories are there, how many large user stories are there, and you look at the story point. You get to know the cost for every story point. Then you can do a like high level estimation for the agile part of it, and predictive one will still be handled through predictive one, which is all about looking into the 4 different techniques. And primarily, I'll prefer to use the analogous estimation if I have it. Else, I will probably use any other method, which is I would rather use a 3-point estimation to be used. Bottom line, hybrid. Just keep the 2 aspects is clear. What is predictive and what is agile? Hybrid will be taken care of automatically. Let's have a quick look at this. This element, this part has most of those questions automatically answered. Budget is estimated based on the length of the time in the project. Well, given what period are we talking about? Well, sprint 1, sprint 2, sprint 3, sprint 4. Probably are we talking about this period, and based on which we are calculating the basically. So we'll talk about the period that, when according to it, we will be able to calculate what the burn rate. Based on this, we'll get to know at what rate we are burning the fund. So how much salary was paid. Well, based on what? The burn rate, number of team members involved during that period, the blended or actual rate. Well, basically, somebody will have less experience will have less rate. With highly experienced one will have rate. So the rate will involve the time of involvement. Somebody with a less experience probably working 7 hours a day. Somebody with high experience working like 2 hours a day. Well, that will involve how much of time involvement they have. According to that, salary would have been paid there. Well, somebody may be full-time or part-time resources. These are related to people. But apart from that, there will be some additional expenses. And that could be the equipment, licenses, software. Those expenses would also be there. So if during this period, we might have got some licenses to be paid, and that license fee, per person fee, license fee will be also applicable. Probably we got a laptop, probably something which is we got, and that is an equipment requirement. That will also be the budget, will a cost which was incurred during this. And who does all that job? Look at this. Product owner may control the budget depending on the team composition. Well, this guy has to get the job done with a certain amount of money, which is available from the client's end. So, well, this guy will exercise his or her rights to kind of make sure I can utilize the resources and given the kind of work I have to. So I will rather, I said, like, I would not like a very experienced, seasoned person to sit down and do a clerical work of basic coding. I may want highly experienced people to come back and simply oversee and do a quick review, give feedback, do the troubleshooting, and the ones who are younger ones kind of keep doing the job of clerical job and put it together, let somebody review it. That's why I will optimize my cost. So similarly, it goes for every level. So I may want to have the involvement of the experienced one, the expensive resources, well, based on when I need them, not like for doing every simple job. So I would like to utilize them. That's what product owner will control the duration, because I have to manage the burn rate. I have limited funds and I have to utilize it in a best possible way. Let's talk about, okay, this is pretty much we've got into risk now. So a quick check on this one. Is this okay and clear? The budget part, we have only basic elements in there, very, very basic elements. Is it okay with everyone? So we will get into risk after the break. So let's take the break right now. When we come after the break, we'll start with the risk discussion. Okay, perfect. Let's take the break. We'll be resuming in next 30 minutes from now. We are taking it about 2-3 minutes early, but we'll resume on time.
Guys, help. How to make him host.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for kind of getting it done. So we can get started now. So I've gone and kept this option on like a, well, everyone can unmute here because something went wrong, I guess, with the system. It just crashed. got stuck completely. Anyways, we can get started now. So before we're going on the break, we talked about the scope, the budget part of it. Now we'll be getting into the risk elements. And primarily for the risk, we have to keep in mind, there'll be a risk management plan, which is all about looking into how the risk will be identified. Risk will be, we will be required to do a qualitative risk assessment. And then we do a quantitative risk assessment, and then we plan for risk responses. So we will be covering that element now. So first thing first, what is a risk? Well, risk is something which is uncertain. Can a risk be positive or negative? Definitely, yes. Risk can be positive, risk can be negative. Both types of risk are there. So a positive risk is called an opportunity, and negative risk is called a threat. So just got to keep in mind, every risk that you identify, whether it's positive or negative, will be documented in something called risk register. So you'll have a risk register created. We'll see a sample of that right now in a moment and few slides. So risk register will be there, which is all positive, negative risk. And then we'll have a risk responses created for them. So well, if it happens, what will we do? So that's the so, but please keep this in mind. These risks have not happened. We have identified some risks. We have discussed, brainstormed, looked at historical documents, spoken with the experts, and we have found some risks which may happen. So we have documented them. Some are positive, some are negative, and we have a planned response. What if it happens? What will we do? So the opportunities and threats both are in this list. Now, if a risk, which is a negative one, if it actually happens, we call that issue. And issue means definitely it's a negative one. A negative risk, which is a threat, has become reality, and that issue will be written in an issue log. So issue log is all about things which are negative and they have happened. So for everything in issue log, you'll have a workaround. That means some bit of, because it has happened, so you have to do something about it. So this will have a workaround, which is some action plan will be there. How we planning to do this job, how to solve it. Bottom line, that will be the issue part. So risk can be positive, risk can be negative. It can come from inside, it can come from outside. So we'll be using different kind of prompt list to identify the risk. So prompt list can be used, which is PCOP, VUCA, PESTEL. We have in the SWOT analysis, this OT, opportunity and threat, that's about the risk factor. So when something risk becomes an issue, we must act on it, but basically, and then talks about a term called trigger condition. What do you mean by trigger condition? It's an indicator or a warning which tells you now the risk will happen. So it's a warning signal. A trigger is a warning signal that if this happens, you know for sure now this is going, the risk will happen now. Now let's take an example. What could be a trigger condition? Like there's a war. All of a sudden, so there's things like there are like a lot of wars going on. So the moment we hear that there's a war which has just started, I know that's a trigger condition for a lot of things. Globally, trigger condition for multiple things. And one most common element, a risk, is increase in oil prices. Oil prices will increase. The moment you see there is a war, new war has started, well, the dollar fluctuation will start happening, because bottom line, and globally people will start investing in and buying more of gold. So gold prices will increase because people tend to switch to more safer commodities because they want to safeguard themselves. So all the big financial institutions will start buying more of gold, and they want to safeguard themselves. So it's a trigger condition which tells you something which happened. Yeah, recent pandemic thing. Bottom line, technically, whenever we deal with all these factors, some trigger condition which will give you the example. So the pandemic thing was a trigger condition for a lot of other things to happen. So incident happened, and that was a trigger condition that a lot of more things are now about to happen. This will happen, that will happen. So the moment that incident happens, I know that's a trigger condition. Like for in a very, 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 very casual way, well, like talk about a day-to-day kind of example, not a day-to-day one, but say in the event of rain, when I see the weather report and I see that the 80% humidity is there, well, I know that's a trigger condition. When it's 80% and above, you generally see the rain. That's a trigger condition which tells me now it is going to rain today. Why? Because there's a humidity or whatever percentage is there, more than 80%. Bottom line, trigger condition is a more of a warning which will happen, will tell you now the risk will happen. So it's a trigger condition. Let's see sample. I'm sure we'll be able to see this sample here. So we'll have positive risk, and for all positive risks are good things. We will like to optimize and make it bigger. We want to maximize from positive risk so that we can benefit from it, and we would like to do some planning, some strategies to minimize the impact of negative ones. So we want to make sure that the positive risk increases, which is good for us, and minimize the negative risk because that's what is good for us. We would love to do that. So, well, can we, whenever we're dealing with a project, is it possible that we can identify all the risks? The answer is no. It's an iterative process because today you may sit down, brainstorm, and probably look at historical documents. You may prepare a list of like a risk register, but is it all? No. Well, this is what you have been able to identify today. And like as the project goes on, you will identify new risks. It's an iterative process. It will happen all throughout. Risk will come from nowhere. This pandemic thing, COVID, came from nowhere. So new risk will come from nowhere. And we have to be always vigilant about it. And we have to kind of look into all those aspects where a risk may happen. So, well, we will keep on close eye on things which are happening, global conditions. It could be internal factors, external factors. Everything could be a part of it. What can be an example of positive risk in a predictive world? Well, see, again, when you talk about positive risk, things which just happen for you where you have not made an effort and it's good for you. Say, for example, you're going for, I had a plan for doing this construction. Everything was going fine. We had planned for this. This guy, sponsor, was quite happy with whatever job we have done. Now, while this work is going on, this guy tells me, one of my friend, he actually is going to visit here. So would you be we just want to show it to him. So this sponsor comes along with his friend, and now his friend looks at the work that you've done and says, well, can you also build a similar house for me? Did you make any effort for this guy to get this business? Any effort made to get this business? Is that going to be positive? Yes, that's a new money. And we're going to get business here. That's a positive risk. You did nothing. It's good for you. It happened. It just worked out for you because it's something which you're not planned. You're not even planning for it. It just happened. So somebody, or for that matter, same sponsor tells you, okay, while this job is going on, well, I want you to also look into this aspect, get me a garage here. And once this is done, small garage, and practically once this is done, you also look into probably the services and all that in the interior stuff, bottom line, extra work, which you're not even looking for and you're not even anticipating. It just happens. It's good for you, definitely. Dollar value fluctuation, market prices, the prices of your cement, your price of the material goes down significantly. Something changed, and that sort of resulted in a drop in the market, the prices of the raw material. But good for you. Absolutely good for you. So then that will be a positive risk for you. Why extra work is called a risk? Okay, risk is an uncertain. Don't take it in a negative way. Risk is an uncertain event. Something happening, uncertain, positive, negative. We have a mindset, like when we hear the word risk, we believe it to be negative because the way it's been used is negative. Risk means uncertain event. Things which is not planned. That's risk. So extra work that we were not even planning for it. It's uncertain, it just happened. So please keep that. It's not about risk. We generally, the mindset we talk about risk is something which will happen. No, it is an event which is not planned, uncertain. It just happened. Okay, perfect. Let's go and talk about some more now. So while you're doing this risk assessment, well, we have to always keep in mind the stakeholders. And specifically, I'm talking about the sponsor, and I have to understand the risk taking capabilities and that's why it's my assessment of the project as a project manager. It's my assessment of the sponsor, and we have to do it as a project manager. And I have to understand the kind of people I'm dealing with, the risk taking capabilities. What kind of people I'm dealing with? It's important to identify them. Is my stakeholder, the stakeholder we're dealing with, is the stakeholder risk seeker or is the stakeholder risk neutral? Bottom line, these are the stakeholders who say, well, okay, high risk, high gain, bring it on. Well, I love it. So this is the kind of people who are very risky, and they would be okay to take higher risk to get higher gain. Logically, but again, that's also risky. That's very risky because again, that's not I won't say it's a very good thing, but again, business will always come with a risk. But these people love risk. Well, they would go that extra mile, if they see the better options and to make something, they will take the risk. And then there are people who are absolutely scared with the risk. And these are very dangerous people, because in business, like, you can't expect life to work the way you want. You can plan, your project will not work as per your plan 100%. And these guys will make your life hell, because they will, smallest possible change, they will start panicking. They will panic, and they will also make you feel that way. So this is also risky, and this is also very risky, because honestly, these are like, this is going to take you into trouble. And these guys will make the situation so worse that you'll not be able to work. Smallest possible change, and these guys are on your head. Now, what will we do? What will happen? Well, honestly, a balanced person will be like any given day good. Well, these people are not looking for risk, but if it comes, then they are not scared. I will handle it, no problem. So balanced approach, well, which is not in our control. So we have to assess the kind of people specifically the kind of sponsor I'm dealing with, and accordingly discuss with them the risk threshold levels. How much of plus minus is acceptable? Let's understand where. So we have a risk like time delay. Time delay can happen. So I need to know, well, if like my project is going on, as per my plan, I'm late by 1 day. Should I escalate this? Practically, logically, it doesn't make sense. Well, you can have some bit of plus minus here and there. Well, how much is acceptable? When do you think as a sponsor? So I'll have a discussion with him. Well, if I'm not able to kind of, like, if I'm as per the plan, if I'm delayed by 1 day, do you want me to escalate it? If that's the case, the guy says, yeah, I want to know, then this guy is the risk averse one. Well, say, no, what if I'm 3 days delay? The guy says no. If this guy says no, well, 1 day, I do believe you are like a project manager, you know how to handle, you need to pull it back. So it's like 1 day. Well, if I'm late by 3 days, is it now important for me to, well, or do you still believe I can pull it back? I say, well, 3 days, again, still you can do it. Probably when I'm delay by 5 days, I'm sure you must have been, when you got 1 day delay, you were trying to pull it back. You still not. The gap got bigger. 2 days, the gap got bigger. 3 days, the gap got bigger. Now it's 5 days. It's a 5 days delay we're talking about. And we're trying to understand whenever we talk about this aspect. So when is that it becomes the limit for when the sponsor says now? Well, technically, that's enough. I'm sure you must have tried about roughly about 5 days. So when you were on the first day, when you saw that you were 1 day delay, you may have tried to pull it back. But now instead of pulling it back, it got 2 days late. Then it got 3 days late. You're doing everything. So 5 days, it has gone like increase, and then you got to this stage now. So probably this is the stage where the sponsor is now. I think when you have delay by 5 days, you should inform, escalate. So I need to understand when I should escalate. What is the risk-taking capabilities? How much this guy is ready to let me try my job? Well, because you will see some bit of plus minus. So when is that this guy wants me to go and escalate? Same for cost. When I have gone over budget by $1,000, should I escalate? $2,000, should I escalate? $3,000, $4,000. When do you think, okay, probably when I'm over budgeted by 5,000 now, because I would have tried to pull it back. Now the budget variance is getting bigger and bigger. Now, probably that's the time I should escalate. So we would have to have a discussion with the product owner, technically not the product owner, but the sponsor, to understand how much of plus minus is okay, to understand the risk-taking capabilities, so that I can ensure that they are timely communicated about that. But before that, I will sort of play, because see, there will be some bit of plus minus. I will, as a project manager, you don't get always say what you're planning, it's happening. There will be some bit of plus minus. So some bit of gap has to be given. Otherwise, this guy will get like suffocated, because today, if something goes wrong, tomorrow I'm standing in front of sponsor, guys, like I'm 1 day delay. It does not make logical sense. So we have to understand how much of plus minus is okay and accepted. And that will also be for the different kind of risk, different kind of categories of risk. We may have to decide how much of risk is allowed. We will have to agree with the stakeholders there. Now, again, let me quickly look at this question here. In case of agile of 2 weeks, then, well, agile doesn't have all this stuff. Again, I'm not sure. Tushar, agile doesn't have all this stuff. This is all to deal with your predictive. This agile doesn't have all this. If the risk is can be managed within the contingency reserve, well, that we are, Mr. Yusuf, we are trying to understand in terms of not about contingency reserve. Well, contingency reserve is to make sure that we are able to utilize that when that event happens. When a particular event for which you planned a contingency reserve for in terms of the timeline, if that happens, we will be using it. But that's what we want to understand for a particular event. How much of plus minus is when you want me to escalate? At least keep you informed. Well, do you want to go and keep telling this guy, today I'm 1 day late, tomorrow I'm 2 days late, 3 days late, 4 days late? No. Basically, that's what I want to gauge, how much of the risk-taking capability of this person. Accordingly, I will set my risk management plan. When I'm doing the risk assessment, I need to know when is this guy should be intimated and informed, because I can plan according to it. I will be trying to control and pull it back. The risk will happen. Risk is about, well, things which are not like, things will not go as per the plan. So when should I escalate is what? So terminology wise, threshold is the limit which this guy is going to give me. And like for me to play with the plus minus. How much? That's when it says, oh, now I should at least start in like looping in the person. And if need be, we might want to go and utilize the contingency reserve if that falls into category. The reason why that escalation, the delay is happening, because you may have tried it from your end, but it's not getting controlled. So there has to be time when I should at least inform. But what's the right time? What's the right duration? We're trying to figure that out. And this will be discussed. How much of plus minus is okay with you? Because you should trust me as a project manager, I will be able to pull it back. But when do you say it's enough? And it's good for me to know, well, when should I escalate? Is that okay and clear? Threshold is the limit. Is it okay with everyone? Quick check. Okay. Now, for your risk management plan, your risk will be dependent on various factors: the size of the project that you're dealing with, the complexity of the project, importance, and what kind of development approach you're using. Bottom line, you will have different kind of risk in different kind of scenarios. So in your risk management plan, you look at a lot of things. Well, basically, what will be risk strategy? We'll talk about different kind of risk strategy for positive risk, negative risk. That, I guess, is the last slide for the risk section. So we'll discuss it then. The methodology, whether predictive, agile, like a hybrid or agile, like a hybrid only. So these are not meant for the agile things, pretty much. Roles and responsibility, who will handle the risk? The funding basically the fund related plus minus of how much is acceptable, the limit where you should escalate. Similarly goes for the timing part of it, whether you'll be classifying risk as low risk, high risk, medium risk. Well, how do you categorize a particular stakeholder? Risk taker, neutral risk, and basically then you kind of go and create a PI matrix. The qualitative assessment for every risk has to be done. Probability impact matrix is going to be created. We'll see a sample of that. That's PI matrix. Reporting formats, well, whatever kind of reports you'll be publishing that will be related to risk. And yes, based on which you will be able to kind of go and track the well, what is happening on the risk. Basically, the same risk register we're talking about. The risk register you will continue to see, well, has the risk where basically you will be monitoring the existing risk that you've identified. What has happened to those risks? Is the risk getting bigger? Is the risk getting smaller? So we'll be looking at the risk scores. We'll be seeing a sample will get clear. So it's more about some report, which is risk register, will have all that elements covered. So we'll see that. We'll see it'll be covered in the risk register. Let's see some samples here. Some samples will get into picture. I hope you recall this image. We had already discussed this image, right? If anyone recalls this, there's definition. We were trying to decide which project to be picked up, whether a project is more suitable for predictive, agile, or hybrid. So this is the same slide we're talking about. And please keep this in mind. Again, say that whenever we talk about agile part of it, we don't sit down and prepare risk registers. It's not an agile practice. But again, why? Because we do it every day. So while we have a daily meeting, which is what do we call as daily meeting we have? What's the name of the meeting? The ceremony. What do we call that ceremony? In Agile, we meet every day before the shift starts. There's a ceremony. No, that's the name of that ceremony. Daily meetings. No, not milestone. Daily meetings. So today, daily stand-up. Thank you. Daily stand-ups. So you have daily stand-ups. You do that daily stand-ups and you basically have a discussion to understand basically what have we completed since yesterday? What is that we will be doing today? And what were the impediments, which is the issues we faced. So they call word as impediment. They don't use the word risk. So you don't use the word issue. We will use the word impediments. So team would discuss it every day. So this is more of the live environment kind of thing. We don't sit down and plan. We do it. It's real time. We do the job. It's on the go. Risk management. But if we have identified certain channels and issues during discussion, yes, please keep this concept in mind. How do you inform? by information radiator. So in agile kind of work, based on the discussion we have discussed about how will we handle, and if any information needs to be cascaded to the team, they'll be using information radiator, which are the large TV screens, some sort of large display board, could be Kanban board, could be cloud-based system. Bottom line, that large TV screen or display board will be used to communicate what were the impediments and what is the planned responses for them. How do we plan to tackle them? Bottom line, this is but on the move. We don't sit down and plan like we do it in agile. Like in case of predictive, there's going to be massive document, massive discussion. But again, not in case of agile. Why? It's happening every day. It's real time. You do the job, you face challenge, we discuss. We did do it. So it's on the go, on the move. We do it. We don't sit down and plan all this stuff in agile stuff. We don't do that. Practically not required because we can't plan. You plan for things which is going to happen. All in all, you have to identify the risk from a predictive perspective. You have to, or hybrid, because hybrid also have predictive in it. So you create a risk breakdown structure. What is this? Exactly like work breakdown structure, you have a risk breakdown structure. You break down the risk like in a smaller elements, and then you further break them down. And we'll see a sample of a risk break. So basically it breaks them down, and you can use this risk breakdown structure with this prompt list. Remember, we just talked about prompt list, VUCA, TCOP, what we talked about. So VUCA, TCOP, PESTEL, these are the prompt lists. I can use this prompt list to create a risk breakdown structure, or I can create my own customized version. So we'll see a sample of risk breakdown structure, which is their own customized version. So you can customize it yourself. Bottom line, there are some ways to discuss about the risk factor. You decide your own method. So we have a sample of risk breakdown structure. To collect risk details, brainstorming can be done. Nominal grouping technique, we already know what is done. We have discussed that. SWOT analysis can be done. We have already discussed about affinity diagram, assumption analysis, all the assumptions we have taken, cost assumptions, time assumptions, resource-related assumptions, whatever assumptions we have taken, we'll keep that in mind. Well, that can be looked into it. This is also done by business analysts during the starting project. Yeah, high level, definitely yes, because they have not discussed about everything, but high level, they would talk about assumption analysis would have been done. Definitely yes. Document review is OPA. Looking at OPA, you will be able to have that information. Now, Delphi technique, we'll talk about what is that. Monte Carlo simulation is quantitative risk analysis, not mandatory, only if your project sponsor demands it, then we do quantitative analysis. This is ideally done for large projects, and we say like, let's say larger, like generally research projects, like COVID vaccine has gone through Monte Carlo simulation. NASA space projects, they always go through Monte Carlo simulation. Generally, they're like when the stakes are very, very high and the chance or probably the probability of failure has to be minimized, then you go for Monte Carlo simulation. And the other methods, but this is the most updated one, like most important, and people primarily use. This is way, way, way too accurate. So it's as simple as that. When you want to a satellite to land on the moon, it's so expensive to like try and expand, like to it's very expensive to try this and let the satellite go to the moon and then fail there. No, we create that Monte Carlo simulation exercise here on Earth. We try to create a scenario here, and it's 100% hardcore statistics. Hardcore. You need somebody from a very good statistical background to do this Monte Carlo simulation. It is way too accurate to predict. So because while we are prescribed from project management perspective, we should do qualitative assessment. Qualitative assessment is done through, it's mandatory, everything should have. So we would use PI matrix, probability impact matrix, discussion based, but not quantitative. This is absolutely correct. I can show you a sample what Monte Carlo simulation looks like, but all in all, they are required only for large projects and only if demanded by the project, by the sponsor. And yes, if somebody is asking for this, then we'll be paying money, because this guy, you will have to procure resources from outside to do the Monte Carlo quantitative analysis. You will require people from outside to do this job. By default, you will not have, unless you have somebody good with statistics in your team. So, well, I'll show you what is Monte Carlo, but let me talk about first Delphi technique. What is that? So the concept of Delphi technique is two things got to keep in mind. Only experts are involved here. It's not open for all. It's only experts, like repeated round of questionnaires. So you have repeated questionnaire between these experts and it's anonymous. Nobody knows who all are participating. Anonymous, no. So we have, say, like we got expert 1, this guy, then we have expert 2, we have got expert 3. And we ask these experts to go ahead and, so nobody knows. So this guy knows I am involved in this discussion, well, in this activity of finding this, but this guy doesn't know who all are participating. Nobody knows who all are participating. You know it, definitely. Now, we will ask this guy to go ahead and give us like top 2 risks, which say we are trying to handle, we should be careful about. So this guy gives me a risk called A and B. We also ask this question from this guy, say hypothetically, this guy gives me B and C. This guy gives me a risk like which is A and D. So now you got responses from all the experts. Now what you do is refine A, B, C, and D. That's what you got. Now what you do is you send a questionnaire back to them and you ask them to select one top response as for them. So let's keep in mind, this guy, well, the first one responded B to the most critical one. This guy responded also again B to the most critical one. This guy responded, say, D to be most critical one. Now we got the response again. We will again combine. Now we have got 2. We'll again go back and send them, select one out of them. So this will go on and on till the time everyone gets to a single point. And this is what we could do this is voting technique. This is more of voting technique. And when you say, remember the voting technique, we had 3 different voting techniques: unanimous decision, majority, and the plurality. This is unanimity. And everyone must use. So unanimity is when you have 100% agreement is achieved. And this is in Delphi technique, it only works with 100% agreement. When everyone says 1, everyone says B, 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 bottom line, then we say, okay, B is the most important one. So it's a repeated round till the time, and keep refining, and you get to a point where everyone says 1, that will be taken as a decision. And well, nobody knew who all are participating. That's a Delphi technique. So it's only done within the expert. It's name of the person who introduced this model. Let me show you what a good to know. It's a sample example to show you what is Monte Carlo here. Six Sigma, where is it? Monte Carlo, I guess. Okay, here we go. Monte Carlo simulation. Just to give an example. So we have few data points. While in real projects, you may end up creating, say, like 600,000, and like 1 million, or probably not 1 million is even less. Probably say like 10 million or 50 million data points from some data. So you extrapolate, you create a new subsets of data, you simulate, and like, so all have like some bit of, it's all statistics driven. I had some average based on basically some production related thing. I want to predict about my profitability. I know when I have do a total gross margin of this, my production expenses, this marketing expenses, and bottom line, I have this kind of data, like some basic information I've got. I don't have too much of data. Based on this, I will be able to kind of generate a simulator, which will create, and I have created a simulator here for 500 data points, but it's not done for 500. You might have from some like only with this much of data, I'm able to simulate and create a series. This data got created based on a certain formula. And yes, we have this entire thing created in real Monte Carlo simulation. You will see this number could be like 50 million data points will be created. So you simulate and you create like a similar kind of subsets, and that data gets like, you extrapolate a lot of data, and just by making small change, everything will tell. So how my profitability, right now it's 30%. I want to predict, well, what if there is a change in the like a production capacity and it goes to say 65, and my variation, well, we look at it, it drops to say something like 5 as standard deviation. People from Six Sigma will sort of predict. Now because if that happens, what will be the impact on my profitability? Just based on one value change, the entire simulation activity value has changed and got revised. And based on that revision, you're looking at this will result in about profitability drop from 30 to about 15.4%. One smallest possible change. And these are absolutely accurate. Well, this can be extended, but again, this is a more basic example of how a Monte Carlo simulation works. But again, this same thing will be extended, and probably when I say extended, it could be like 50 million data points can be created. So it's high level of extrapolation is done here. So it's good to know what is it. We will never be required to do this ourselves. You will always, if it is actually required, it will be demanded by the sponsor, and you will be obviously billing the sponsor for getting a resource who can do this job. So quantitative analysis is not mandatory. I guess somebody's mic is on, and I have to keep it this way. Please request everyone to keep the mic switched off, muted. Okay, quick one. This is an example of a risk breakdown structure. Oh, my bad. Let's go back here. Risk breakdown structure. So remember, we talked about prompt list. We have prompt list. So here they have created their own list. Why should I use a prompt list which is like TCOP, VUCA? So basically, a prompt list is to have a discussion, meaningful discussion, where you can create a list of possible political risk factors. So if you use the prompt list, we talk PESTEL, the political, economical, and all those factors. When we look at social factor, technological factors, so we can discuss it. Here they have created their own category. Well, they have used we'll discuss about risk factor related to technical aspects, management related aspects, commercial related aspects, the external factors. So they have gone and created a risk breakdown structure. So what all technical risk we have? This. For what all management risk we have this. It gives you a structure. You can have rather than having a random conversation, we have gone ahead and broken. This is a risk. So we have talked about broad level risk. They have been broken down into small risk. And then if you want, you can further break it down. It's like a WBS. This is breaking down your risk at a smaller component level. So this is about risk breakdown structure. It helps you to kind of sit down and create a risk register for these identified risks. So just good to know, where basically it's a way to explore and find the risk in the system. Now let's quickly have a look at this element here. Perform qualitative assessment first. Prioritize risk, and based on which, what do you assign? You look at probability impact matrix. Then if further support is required, then do quantitative. Not every risk needs quantitative assessment. So quantitative only if demanded by the sponsor, you would not do it otherwise. It's not required otherwise. So this is an example. Please keep this. This is not standard. Me can create our own template. Probably somebody else will create their own template. So, well, you have just taken an example how a probability impact matrix is decided to quantify a risk. Whether we'll call this risk as a low risk, a medium risk, or high risk. Well, you can do your own quantification. The team, not one individual, the team can sit down and brainstorm and figure out what is the definition of a low risk, a medium risk. So that's an example. Please don't go literally by this. It's not a standard. Well, everyone customizes their own. So like here, they say if the probability of something happening, a risk happening, is less than 1%, then it's not even worth calling as a risk. If the probability is between 1 and 10%, we'll say that it's less risky. If the probability is between 10 and 11 and 30%, we'll say like low risk. If we talk about 31 and 50, medium risk. So you have created your own table. Bottom line, not a rule, not a guideline. We'll say if the risk happens and the impact of the risk is more than 6 months to recover from that, then it's a very high risk. If the recovery will take about 3 to 6 months, then it's about like a high risk, and 1 to 3 months. So the impact of that risk, if that happens, a failure happens, what will be the impact of the risk? And similarly for impact of cost on the cost, if that risk happens, how much damage it will do in terms of monetary thing. And you can sort of customize your own risk, and you can create a table like this. And then you sit down and discuss every risk. Well, where does it fit in, and what do you call it, a high risk, a medium risk, and all that. But you can do that. You will end up creating a table like this. This is how you end up creating a table. Again, an example here. So please keep this in mind. You might see a number, but this is not a quantitative analysis. This is discussion-based. We're just giving numbers, but there is discussion-based quantitative analysis. So we find out, okay, what is the chance of a risk happening? So risk of like rating of 1 means rarest possible chance. 5, it is going to happen very often, very often. So probability is like how soon you can think that this risk will happen. What's the chance of this risk happening? 1 is like rarest possibility, is like very frequent. Impact, if it's not going to impact anything, well, practically nothing, I'll say 1. Very bad, like hazardous, like COVID, bad, worse, war, nuclear reactor, disaster, something like that, which is like 5, very bad. So we try to figure out if there's a risk which is going to happen. What's the chance? We'll say like sort of 50-50. Like the team says, okay, the chance is like 3 on a scale of 1 to 5. We believe that there is a chance of 3, which is, we believe it might be there. It might like be on a scale of 1 to 5. It's not, I won't say that it will not happen. I won't even say like it's going to happen very too far, like on an average midway. Okay. And this risk happens, the impact will be not very, very bad, but yeah, it will be bad. So we give a rating of 4. Now 3 4s are 12. Look at this. This section has been rated. This risk will be categorized as medium based on the color coding there. So if your risk is like, for example, we give a rating of 4 and we say the impact will be disastrous, 4 5 is 20. That's in the very high risk zone. So score, but again, this is where the risk is falling. You have given a certain color code and that can be used as a categorization. How is the question on these? Mr. Faiz, I have already shared those questions, right? All of these questions are already shared. You have the phase-wise questions I have already shared with you all. This is lesson-wise questions are there. I've already shared, and even I'll share the answer key also, right? Perfect. So this is how these are templates, but now what you end up creating out of them is this risk register. This is an example of a risk register. Let's have a look at what we created there. So when you explore and identify different risks, and let's pick up one of the question here, one of the risk here to understand how do you classify a risk and how do you prepare it. So there is some sort of construction, I guess, supply chain issue of correct bricks. So bricks are required for doing the construction. So that is a probably what if there's an issue in the supply chain of the issue of the bricks. Impact description, write it, what may happen, how bad it is, like subjective area, you can write down stuff here. What we say, if this happens, it's going to be disastrous. Absolutely. There will be no more construction done. You don't have the bricks. Impact is very high. What is the chance that you will have a problem with the bricks? Well, not getting the bricks. Well, it has never happened. And you have so many vendors. If you don't get it from A vendor, you'll get it from B vendor. So chance that we will get stuck is rarest. Well, we have no issues till date. And we have a lot of vendors. We will not be stuck. So chance of we getting stuck with this is very, very rare. So we gave a 1 rating here. We gave a score of 5. 5 multiplied 1 is 5. For this one, say impact is 5. Probability is slightly higher. So we give a 10, 5 to 10. So you do probability score, multiply the impact score. You get a risk score created here. That's what you're seeing, risk score. Now, when do you say when this risk happens, which will, if in case, this has never happened yet till date, but when would you say this is going to happen? What's the trigger condition? Well, what if your supplier tells you, sends you an email, calls you up and says, sorry, we're having a strike and we may not be able to supply you the bricks this week. Well, that could be a trigger condition that tells me, well, buddy, now the risk has happened. Now, when you get this notification, you know for sure there will be a problem with the bricks because you don't have the bricks now. Bottom line, that's a trigger condition. So you will discuss the action plans and you'll decide that this person will be responsible to ensure this action plan is implemented. And what could be the action plan? Go and have at least alternate backups. Don't just have one vendor only. Try to have the alternative vendor. So try to distribute at least one. If one vendor gets stuck, you can always ask from other vendors to cover up for the, if you have say if one vendor just calls you, not every vendor will get into a problem so. We'll try to have, don't go with one only. So that action plans can be created here. So this is all what you create in a risk register. Now, if you look at this risk register, it's pretty straightforward one, very basic one, and this is how it needs to be done. Trigger condition highlights when the risk score identified. No, trigger condition is more about telling you when this happens, this is likely to happen. When this happens, this is likely to happen. So this is sort of a prerequisite. If this is going to happen, you know for sure this risk is now on the cards. It's more of a warning sign now. Now you will be ready for the risk to happen. This is what trigger condition is all about. Is it clear? This is more about the warning sign. Trigger condition. Okay. And if I just use a very lightweight of this, we call it as risk list. Risk list is you just have score and you can customize as per your. So risk register is what everyone uses. Risk list is generally, if in an agile world, people can use a risk list kind of thing, which is like very lightweight version. But again, primarily risk list is very rarely used. People use a risk register. In agile world, yes, people can still go and maintain a log of the risk where they can have a risk list, which is lightweight version. This is a risk list, which is about just main issue, probability and impact. Well, you can do the scoring on a scale of 1 to 5, 1 to 10. They have taken 1 to 10. Remember, keep this in mind. This is all about customization. People have done it as per their needs. So there's no rule around it. You can do 1 to 5 score, 1 to 10. And yes, you can then customize. Look at this, tailor your solution. If you want to add more owner of the risk, when this, what is the current status, when the risk was identified, whether it has been resolved, when date it was resolved, if it's still active, how many days, what was the strategy used. Bottom line, you can customize your own. So honestly, if you end up customizing and adding everything, it will become a risk register. But again, a simple list is a risk list. When you add all those things, it will become a risk register. So in Agile, it's talking about, look at this. In addition to a risk list, well, in Agile, you may sort of end up maintaining a very lightweight, because it's going to happen every day. And that you can display through your information radiator. You can use that information radiator to display that this is what is happening. During the backlog refinement process, we can have a discussion with the product owner about if we have come across any challenges there. So bottom line, any which is going to happen. So there will be various forums we can discuss about the risk. Daily it's going to happen any which ways during the meeting, when you have meeting with the product owner, during the refinement process, we can discuss it. Apart from that, the retrospective meetings, whenever they happen within the team, there also risk will be discussed. So bottom line, there will be a lot of ceremonies where you will end up having a discussion about. So in Agile, I would say it's on the go, on the move. People do the job and what we feel. So here in Agile world, we don't sit down and plan what if this will happen, what if that will happen. See, you can only say what if this will happen, that will happen when you know that things are planned. This is what will happen. So when you know something will happen, you can plan what if this does not happen. So in Agile world, we are not even planning. If you're not planning, then what will you prepare the risk for? So that's why the concept of risk management cannot get into. So we do it real time, which we tackle the problem, we move on. We tackle the problem, we move on. And if the risk which has not been solved, it'll be kind of, or probably we need more exploration about it. That can be displayed through the information radiator, and the team will, even Scrum Master will pitch in here to remove the impediment. So the team will work together. So bottom line, our job is to ensure that we look into the risk aspects and mitigate those risks as much as we can. That's pretty much. Who notifies the concerned stakeholders? Well, okay. Well, are you talking about the Agile part of it or the predictive one? In Agile, any which is they're involved because they are the ones who are doing the job. In Agile, both are doing, because the people who are doing the job, they are the one facing the problems, and they are going and updating it and adjusting it. Real time, they're having a discussion. In predictive, you're doing it in the planning period. So you're having a discussion, you're planning it right now, and then it's on the move because people will be responsible within the team. Somebody will be given responsibility to manage this risk register. And as and when some risk is identified or a new risk is identified, well, this guy will be intimated, or some team will be intimated that there is a new risk identified. Basically, they will be maintained. Initially, we are just planning it. In all of them, all the stakeholders will be sitting together and will be planning for the risk here. The team will sit together and will do this job. Not one person. One person is not responsible for doing this. And one person can't even do this as an individual. It's a very tedious job. Now, quick list on this one. This is not mandatory. Please keep this in mind. These are the things which we should know what these are. They're meant for quantitative risk analysis. Quantitative risk analysis. What is this? First one we talked about, simulation, which is the Monte Carlo simulation, the globally, the one which we wrote. This is what is the definition of quantitative one. But again, there are more other tools also, and there are different kind of statistical packages which will be able to do this analysis. And this is second option we talk about is the sensitivity analysis. When you do this, you get this chart called tornado diagram. Tornado diagram, and there will be a tool we will learn most likely tomorrow or day after called Pareto chart. And this is exactly like a Pareto chart, where what happens here, the positive risk are on the positive side, negative risk is on the negative side. So sensitivity analysis will give you like if I look at it, I have this is priority positive risk, which is good for me. So it's a bigger bar, which is good. This probability of high risk is like the positive risk is higher. This is also positive risk, which is higher. Third one is a negative risk, and this is relatively less. This is the fourth risk, which we have. It's a positive one. So I would be able, what I see here, I have more probable positive risk and less of negative risk. Like these are less, and the impact is also not that bigger, which is good. Well, that's what I would love to see. And I would be trying to understand how can I make this happen and make the best out of it, because that's good for me, and what can be done to minimize it. And this is all statistically driven. So this chart is being created based on correlation matrix. But that's a part of, again, a separate like a discussion. But again, it's all about the statistics related relationship between the risk and the probability of something happening has been taken here. So we will be able to create a lot of charts. There are different kind of charts. This is one of them, which are created for risk assessment. This is also quantitative. So, but again, journal basic analysis work, people do this sensitivity. Monte Carlo simulation will only be touched when then the stakes are very, very, very high. Then Monte Carlo simulations will be done. Otherwise, nobody gets into Monte Carlo simulation. There's some more. Decision tree analysis. Basically, decision tree, the tree diagram is used here. So when there is a particular risk we talk about, so every risk may have a lot of like possibilities. This may happen, that may happen. Like there can be a lot of probabilities with that risk. So we look at the end point of everything. Some risk may be positive, some may be negative, some may be positive, some may be negative. So when you look at this, every single element you go and then you try to do a quantitative analysis at every risk here. So like you look at the with every risk, well, probably if it's a positive one, I will be able to make more money here, something which will be positive, good for us. The negative ones will have an impact on me. Well, so we go and assess things at that level with the ground level. And yes, even we have this positive, negative done, we use the statistics part in the decision tree analysis to be able to predict the possibility of this event happening, the probability of this event happening. There are a lot of like probability theorems which can be used to understand and predict what is the probability of something happening can be predicted. If you know the like historically some information, not too much, but some information, you can predict what is the chance of something happening in real world scenario. Again, you can always predict that something which can happen. So that's where the decision tree can come into picture. And same is the case with this influence diagram. Let me show you some, at least give you a quick idea. Both concepts are like they will go and come with some bit of statistical model to be able to predict something happening. I will kind of just give you an example. I'll show you what is influence diagrams are also called. What's the name of that influence diagram? They call it interrelationship diagram. So let me I'll just go and show it to you. First, interrelationship diagram. But then I'll show you the other one for Minitab. So this is interrelationship diagram. That's the one. So I'm referring to this one. Influence diagram. Then I say influence diagram is called interrelationship diagram. I'll show you what is that. Let's pick up this. Again, this has got numbering. I'll rather save myself some time and see which one has numbers in it. This is numbers in it, which is going to be ASQ1. This is numbers in it. And put this one. Yeah, this is pretty good. I can use this one. Okay, this is fine. So what happens in a team would sit down and do a brainstorming and say we have come up with different problem areas which we have identified. This is what we call as here it is given as influence diagram. The quality part of the name is called interrelationship diagram, and this is the one we're looking at. So what happens here? These are the different problems which we have been facing. We have sit down and discuss about the different problems we have. So the team has come up with these are the challenges we are facing. Now what we do in very simple job here. What we do is try to see. We start with the first one here. We try to see is this one causing this problem? 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 So once we try to find, well, which one is, well, if this is causing any of the problem, we'll make we'll connect the arrow. If it's not, we'll not connect the arrow. So once you're done with this one, then we'll pick up the second one. Is this causing this problem? 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 Wherever we say this is causing that problem, we'll connect the arrow. So we do this activity with everyone. Everyone, we try to say whether this activity is causing another problem. Then what we do is we count the number of arrows which are coming in. Say I see here, if it's written 6 in, 1 out. So 6 arrows are coming in, and 6 arrows are coming in. One is going out. Only one is going out. And look at this: 2 out, 2 in, 2 out, 3 in, 1 out, 4 in, 1 out, 1 in, 5 out. I'm just trying to find. Okay, now let's have an answer here. Just what I want to see here. I say that 1 arrow is coming in and 4 arrows are going out. So it says that when more arrows are going out, that means this is creating 5 new problems. What it's telling me, it is creating 5 new problems and it is getting impacted by 1. It is getting impacted. 1 is coming in, that is getting impacted by 1, but it is a source of 5 new problems. 5 new problems are created by this. So this is the source of the problem. Probably if I say how these problems are interconnected, this is the source where everything is sort of, most of the problems are getting created here. What will generally people complain about is what will be seen as an outcome. Everyone will generally be, see, look at the 6 arrows are coming in, 6 arrows are coming in, and 1 is going out. So it is creating 1 problem, but it is getting impacted by 6 different problems. So generally when people will complain about this. This will be seen as the problem, and this is going to be the root cause of those problems. So this is how we find interrelationship between and yes, once you have this done, I can then use the statistical model to kind of even predict something happening. Well, what is the probability that this problem will happen? I'll just give you a very quick short demo. We'll not get into details because we can't start the statistics part, but just to kind of give you a quick idea what the probability part we are talking about here. So here, let me just, we're talking about like something happening, like something negative, something happening here. So if I want to understand and relate it with, I want to understand like a probability of something happening, let's say, okay, pick up. So at my construction site, I have, or probably as per my OPA, similar projects within the company. I see, because now we are doing the planning, I see that historically they have reported, like on an average, there were 3 accidents at the construction site. That was risky. So now we want to understand what's the probability of having an accident so we can prepare ourselves accordingly based on historical number. So I can go ahead and look at probabilities. Let me just kind of show it to you. Quick one, probability for Poisson. So historically, say there were 3 accidents per month based on historical OPAs and all. We see there are 3 probable accidents per month. So we want to understand the probability of having exactly no accidents. What is the chance that we will have no accidents in a given month? So I would be able to see if historically there were 3 accidents, what is the probability of having no accidents? About 4.9%. This is 4.9% chance, roughly like 5%, is that you will have no accidents in a month. If historically the average has been 3 accidents per month, there's only 4.9% chance that there will be no accidents in a particular given month. If I want to know what is the probability that I'll have a maximum of 1, only 1, not a maximum, but exactly 1 accident in a month, the chance of having exactly 1 accident in a month is about 14.9%, roughly like 15% chance that I will have 1 accident in a month. I want to know what is the probability of having 2 accidents, exactly 2 accidents in a month is what I want to know. Probability of having exactly 2. 22.4 people, well, accidents are expected. 22.4% chances that you will have exactly 2 accidents. If there's a probability I want to know for 3 accidents in a month, exactly 3. Historical average is also 3. It says again 22.4% chance is there that you'll have exactly 3 accidents. Now the bigger part is what is the probability that there will be more than 3? If historical average has been 3, what is the probability that you'll have higher than 3? Let's see this. The risk we are working with is about 57.6% chance is still there that you will have higher than 57.6% is chance that you will have more than 3 accidents. So you can do all that probabilities, and these are very, very accurate. Well, you can do all that. So there are a lot of ways to interpret the statistics, sort of plays around with it. And you can deal with all this in various analysis with this. Bottom line, these are required when you want to be, and this is going to make us more, statistically, we will be able to more secure ourselves in a better way. Quick one here. And the last one is this, you saw expected monetary value. Here, it's very lightweight way of estimating the contingency reserve. Remember, we have to prepare. So contingency reserve, how do you prepare that? Based on this expected monetary value. So for every risk, what you do here, you sit down with the team, all the identified risks, you will do calculation of expected monetary value. Let me just go back and kind of prepare. Let's give a quick example of one more time. expected monetary value, what do you do? So we try to find there's a risk. We try to find out what is the probability of that risk happening, probability of something happening, impact of that, and we calculate the expected monetary value. So for example, there's a risk here, risk of fire. Has there been an incident of fire? No, not yet. At least we have never had a probability of like a failure, like a fire thing. But can it happen? Definitely, yes. Why not? Well, since you don't have a probability of something happening, statistics says that when you know something, historically know there is the probability of something happening, I know it. I will use that probability. For example, there's no event. Well, do we know fire may happen? Yes. But historically, there has been no fire. So what is the probability I will be using? Because I don't know what's the chance of having fire. Whenever you don't know something in statistics, we always go with 50% chance by default. If you have no idea, you go with 50%. What is the impact if this fire happens? Probably we might end up damaging, like say, the damage could be in the tune of say $20,000 if the fire happens. So my expected monetary value will be 50% of 20,000 is going to be 10,000. So for fire, I should secure about at least 10,000 as my expected monetary value. Say loss due to rain. So, well, I see if it rain on a particular day, what the probability of rain, probably if it's the period we're doing, and like say there's a chance of rain, is roughly like 70% chances there for the rain. Like you will get impacted based on the rain. There are high probability, and if that happens, that's not probably just about what $10,000 impact we will have. We'll take 10,000 of this, like whatever $700 is what we will be, $700 or $7,000 is what we'll be keeping as the impact. So we take the probability and we take the impact. Because of that, discussion based, it is still qualitative analysis. Well, honestly, but since we talk about probabilities will be taken into consideration, if you have historical statistics wise, then I will say it's the quantitative analysis. If it's actually taken from the quantitative standpoint, because quantitative way, if you have historical probability, use it. If you don't have it, you always go with 50% probability. And the impact is based on the assessment of if this risk happens, what will be the damage, based on which you calculate the EMV. So expected monetary value will help you to understand how much of contingency reserve, the risk that you've identified, how much of reserve that you have to park for and that has to be added to your cost. That will become a part of your cost baseline. It is the one. Yes, that's one. That's what will go, because it's for your identified risk, which you have identified. You want to plan for contingency, and that will be expected monetary value that I have to keep as a reserve for the identified risk and things which you have identified. I want to park some money. If you don't have the ones for that, then we have management reserve. Management reserve for unidentified ones. Parked ones are, like we already know, they are parked ones because there will be some bit of. Bottom line, I should keep in mind that simulation will be the Monte Carlo one. Sensitivity analysis will give you the tornado diagram, decision tree, influence diagram, and the expected monetary value. These are the methods of doing quantitative analysis. So conceptually, from exam perspective, we should know they are linked with the quantitative analysis of the, when we're doing this project, we are doing quantitative analysis with these. Is it okay with everyone? Quick check on the quantitative part. Cost based on budget. It does, yes, it does include this expected monetary value, which will go as contingency reserve. Okay, let's go and check this out. All right, so, well, one question here. Do you agree with this statement here, which is given here? Predictive project, just a general question, nothing to be discussed. Predictive projects are more impacted by the cost and adaptive by time. Do you agree with the statement? Just general question. Do you agree with this? Yes or no? Yeah, that's right. Actually, predictive projects will be any given day more impacted by the cost. But again, in Agile is all about time. Agile is all about time. So it says a good practice for doing the risk management is going to prepare a good response plan. Response plan should be cost effective. You have to keep in mind, you can't prepare any response. You have to be cost effective. It should be able to make an impact on the risk. It should be realistic. Well, you may be working in a primitive world. Don't talk about AI based some implementation. So be realistic. Given the project we're talking about, it should be acceptable to the stakeholder, and you should have responsibility assigned. We've seen the risk register. There was a person assigned to that action plan. So we'll always have an action plan, somebody who will be handling that risk management plan. If this risk happens, who will handle it? Ideally, we'll have this done for every risk. Now, this is when you kind of implementing the risk, when you're planning for it, when you will quickly go through certain terminologies which are important to make sure we understand the risk part of it. So every risk that we have, we know what is trigger condition. If the trigger condition is seen, we know now risk can develop. So when you see this, it's like we see humidity in the atmosphere is greater than 80%, or if it's greater than 80%, now we know the rain can happen anytime. So that's a trigger condition. It signals now this can develop. Now that if the risk happens actually, then the team will implement the risk response, whatever they have planned. Now you implement a risk response. As a result of implementing the risk response, the actual implementation that you've done might create a secondary risk also. When you implement your actual action plan, it may create a secondary risk. Vaccine, taking a COVID vaccine was the actual action plan. COVID was the risk. We had to take the vaccine. That was action plan. Did it create a secondary risk? Did it? Because you implemented the action plan, did it create new risk, secondary risk? After implementing the vaccine, yeah. We're talking about the side effects. Who knows? Do you know the side effect? No, we don't know. Well, when you talk about this element, it's now we don't know whether the vaccine that we have taken, will it be effective against mutations, alpha, beta, theta, whatever we are talking about. Do we have to take every year this vaccine? Who knows? So new risk has been created. The moment you implemented first action plan, additional risk has been created here. It's absolutely fine, sir. That's absolutely fine, Mr. Marvel. So, well, new risk has been created. So side effects, whether it will be valid for 1 year or every year you have to do it, or lifelong, it's one is enough. We don't know. And when you implement the action plan, you might see the improvement happening, but you may have controlled this risk, the COVID thing. But is there still a risk left in the system? Yes. Risk can never be eliminated. Risk can never be eliminated. Some risk will still be inbuilt in the system. Well, we always say that when the COVID has come in, and this is going to live with us till the life exists on this planet. So risk will always, even though you implemented the vaccine, can we say that we are secured from this? Well, probably yes, but we're not 100% secure, because this vaccine may not be 100% effective, may not be 100% effective for all of them. So somebody who's been vaccinated, can this person be infected by COVID again? Yes, that's a residual risk. Even though you vaccinated, there's still a probability because it doesn't cover 100%. And on top of it, the mutation is another story. So the mutations, we don't know whether this will work for the alpha, beta, theta, gamma, whatever we are seeing here. Bottom line, we don't know. So there is a more risk which is involved. So, well, A, you create new risk, and B, there is some left out, residual is left out risk in the system, which is there. So when you implement the action plan, and yes, probably I believe that the action plan will work. If it works, which is great. What if you actually implemented the first action plan and the action plan fails? Then you should have a backup plan. If this action plan does not work, what will be my backup plan? If the first plan doesn't work, what should be my backup plan? Always should be there. Well, in vaccine, we don't have it right now. So there's nothing called vaccine. So if you have a vaccine, you have a vaccine. There's nothing called a backup plan right now, as of now. So nowadays, what is happening here? It is getting prepared, by the way. So it's always said prevention is better than cure. So first, vaccine was developed, which is to stop the problem. So vaccine was developed first. Now there are like 3 or 4 companies who are almost there. They were sort of making medicine. Medicine is all about treating the problem. So nobody tried to make a medicine first, because they were everyone was busy developing a vaccine, because if you can stop it from happening, then there's no problem. So vaccine were developed first. Now we have a lot of companies, like few companies, at least I know, where they're working constantly. They're very close in developing a medicine, which is, if this happened, vaccine did not work, then that means somebody will be infected. So medicine will be required to treat it. So if it doesn't work, then you'll be keeping it. And look at this, contingency reserve will be kept for all this. So contingency reserve is kept for all this risk that you've identified. is within the cost baseline. And that's what is that for all the identified risk and the risk response strategies, whatever budget will be required, you'll be added to the cost baseline. I hope it's clear now. Everything that you have. Slide number 120, we can definitely, yes. Give me one quick second here. But by the way, you have already the slides, right? You already have the recorded ones. By the way, you have recorded ones there. Is it okay? Okay, perfect. All right, let's talk about this. Risk response strategies. Now, when your risk happens, well, you have ways to handle them. You've got two different ways. Well, first of all, we talk about the positive risk and the negative risk. So we have both listed here. If in case risk happens, you have two choices to make. Well, first of all, you have got a negative risk, which is threat. Positive is the opportunity side. Let's talk about this one first, and then we'll move to the positive one. If a risk happens and it's beyond your authority as a project manager, do not wait. Well, this one is beyond authority. So outside your authority domain, you don't have a control. So it's beyond your authority. You can't take a decision. Do not sit on that problem. Escalate to your seniors, to the sponsors, to the concerned authority. Escalate when it's beyond your authority. If a negative risk is understood and it's beyond your authority, you can't handle it, it's important to escalate. Avoid is when you always talk about a trade-off. A trade-off is done. What is trade-off? I'll talk. So trade-off is done. Well, you are handling a bigger risk. And what you need to do is, like, I don't want to take that big risk. So what I'll do is I'll do a trade-off with a smaller one. I'll give you an example to understand what is avoid here. Like trade-off. In exchange, basically here is exchange. So you're taking a small risk to avoid a bigger risk. So you're avoiding in exchange with a smaller one. You're taking a lesser damage to avoid a bigger damage, but you're taking a damage here. Like it's raining. And if it's raining and people are working, will it be risky? Yes, somebody may get, it's quite slippery. Somebody may meet with an accident, which is going to be very risky. And if I do stop the work, I'll have to pay them and without doing any work. So my contingency reserve will be impacted. I will have to go and take the money from my contingency reserve. So there's a risk number one of somebody meeting with an accident. B, the risk that I will, if I get the work stopped because it's raining and slippery, it's risky. I'll have to pay them for doing nothing, and that will be taking money out from contingency reserve. So I would rather take the second. I'll avoid a bigger risk, because if this happens, my construction will be completely stopped. I will avoid this bigger risk by paying the contingency, like the free. I let them come and let them sit and do nothing, but it's okay with me. I'll avoid that risk, a bigger one. This everyone has done. Everyone has done insurance. Everyone does this job. We transfer risk. Like we talk about, for example, what else we had this outsourcing. Outsourcing is transferring. So wherever you see the work has been outsourced, insurance outsourced and all that, that's transfer. We have transferred the risk to somebody else to handle this job. So banks have transferred the risk of cash handling to a security agency. You will do our cash handling. We have transferred the risk. Well, can we manage birthdays, anniversaries, parties? Yeah. But we plan an event planner. The event planner is professional. They know their job. They're professional in that area. We prefer to pay some money, but let somebody professional handle it. We are transferring the risk of some failure to somebody who's expert in the area. Transfer is when because there is a probability of something failing. I don't want to go. Transfer to contract. Yes. So we are avoiding that risk. We're trying to give it to somebody who is better in that area. So I'm transferring the risk. This is actual one. And I say actual one, which is when you are actually making an action plan. This is action plan. You're doing something yourself. Your team will sit down and discuss, what if this happens? What will we do? So your team is preparing an action plan to minimize the damage. To minimize damage, you will be preparing this action plan. Mitigate is actually for the first time. See, here I was escalating it. Here I was trying to do like a switch or like a swap, bigger versus smaller. Here I gave it to somebody else. For the first time, I'm doing something to solve a problem is mitigate. Now, accept is when you don't have a choice. Well, it's more of like an act of God. Like an act of God. You don't have a control. It just happened. Well, can't do much about it, like government regulations. You probably war, probably earthquake, COVID, your client, your management, bottom line, they're all out of control. Management says, okay, we are changing the incentive policy. You can't do much about it. You just keep on, you may feel bad about it, but you can't do much about it. Accept it. The client says, the government says, okay, we'll be imposing a 5% extra tax on your income. Well, you can't do much about it. That's the bottom line. You can't do about it. Just accept with a big smile on your face. You accept it. That's negative to you, but you're going to work on that. Is the negative side okay with everyone before we talk about the positive one? Accept and issue the stakeholder change. Yeah, it happens. Okay, let's talk about the positive side. Here it's also beyond my authority. But it's a positive thing. Let me give you an example. Beyond authority, you can't take a decision, but it's great for you. We intervene when needed. Yeah, but so this is what we will be planning, which is the mitigation. We will be planning how will we handle. There can be different ways to handle them. So these are the options we have. If it's a positive thing, I would like to make a big deal. For example, I was using that software right now, Minitab. Minitab is very expensive software, very, very expensive software. But again, honestly, having a Minitab license in a corporate world will do the job and will solve the problem. Like I don't have to wait. Like they will do the job quickly, prepares reports, analysis, way too quick. It will save a lot of time for every resource. Otherwise, people are sitting and doing those analysis for days and days and days and weeks and weeks. It will do the job in 2 clicks. So will it save money? Yes. Is it a good thing? Yeah. So I have to go and probably educate my management, tell them that, well, we should take this software called Minitab. It'll do all the job, what we need to do, analyze. It'll save a lot of time. It's a great thing, but I can't buy this. I can't take this decision myself. It's beyond my authority. Escalate and educate them why this should be taken. It's a good job, good thing to be done. Exploit is when you have bottom line, you have a scenario when we're talking about you already have achieved something, but I would like to so this is where this comes into where you have some sort of contract which is incentive based. The incentive based contracts we always want to exploit. I know there's a slab which has been created. I know there's a slab which says that if I can do it in say 150 days to 160 days, I'll make about 25% of the project cost. If it's 160 days to say 170 days, I make about 15%, which is less. If I do it 170 to 180 days, I'll make 5% only. I will exploit this condition. Well, that's what I will am capable of. So I will try to make the best out of it, and that's what I exploit. So I will probably go and tell my team, guys, we are going to be we'll try to hit the highest slab. And yes, if need be, well, now I declare this sort of incentive for everyone. If we are able to ask for this, I will, if we are able to achieve this, we are ready to give 5% as distribute among the team members. If you want, we can work it out. So 5%, I want to make the best out of it. So I will try to exploit and make the best out of it. So bottom line, it's just about exploring and getting more and more out of it, hitting the maximum value if you have a incentive kind of structure. Share is when you have no option of gaining yourself, but by sharing you gain. And I'll give you a kind of example here. I am busy in training right now. They say the Six Sigma or PMP. Right now, I had a training, for example, which comes for Six Sigma. Now, right now, since I'm occupied with PMP, I can't take the Six Sigma training at the same time. And a client of mine, which is, we have very good relation with them. This client says, now I want the training to be done right now. That's the only time we have got. Well, what I can do is I can reach out to one of my close friends, who is also into Six Sigma. So I tell him, well, I can get you this job. Yes, I can get you this job without any work. Well, practically you can deliver this training, but I will charge 25% from you. Well, bottom line, whatever money you make from this training, I can introduce you to this client. You can deliver this training, and I will charge 25%. There's nothing wrong. Well, I'm sharing, and like this, so we are sort of outsourcing, but we are making money. Well, rather than losing everything, I'm sharing and I'm still making money. So that's why you try to share and make money. It's just what is positive thing. Yes, I don't want to lose it. So rather losing, I will rather say, for example, I get a training for artificial intelligence. I have never done the training, but do I want to let this training go away? No. If I know somebody, I can strike a deal with this person and get the job done. That's one share. Bottom line, you try to make deal out of it. Enhance is practically exploit and enhance are very, very close to each other. because here also it's more, this was more about incentive based stuff, but here it's more about like when you have delivered what they have kind of mentioned in their notes, and when you delivered a job at a certain, you try to go in, like for example, I've delivered a job in say HR department, I did some projects, and this department, the head is really happy with the kind of work we have done. I want this, say VP HR to be my mouthpiece, and rather I go and tell people, I want to enhance this opportunity here. So this guy goes and tells other department, well, why don't you go and use this guy? Well, I have benefited so much. I want this guy to go and do my publicity like word of mouth and practically get this job done for me. So I'm going to enhance the opportunity of making more money here. So practically I would like to enhance, because since I've done my base job, the core job, now I want this opportunity to be enhanced. Well, I may be able to showcase, this is a case study of probably which is ready. I have delivered the job and now I'm looking for, like practically, rather I go and talk to people. This guy can go and be my mouthpiece because this guy is really happy with the work I've done. So exploit is also more on the same line. It's just a different terminology, but typically this exploit condition always goes along with your incentive-based kind of structure we have with the contracts. We want to get the maximum, but here it's more about you already achieved something and you want to enhance. You already have something and you want to enhance and make it big. So that's why it is used in those contexts. When you want to enhance, you already have something and you want to make it bigger. Exploit is when you technically are trying to hit the maximum value here. That's what you have. Accept is about positive thing. While we are talking about positive risk quality, you were given like a friend who came in and asked about, I want this house to be done. And this guy gave me a free work, which is, I was not expecting. This guy just came in and gave me the work. Probably the guy wanted me to construct a house. Now he wants me to set up a garage and other stuff also. Well, I'm gladly, I will accept that. I have done nothing. It just happened. So that will be I will, obviously, if it's coming my way, why not? I don't mind taking the benefits here. But that's the opportunity part. If it's okay and clear, please confirm. Yeah, that's pretty much it. And given the time, I don't think it'll be right to get in this quality. We have got roughly about quality we have to kind of, okay, we have got roughly about 10 minutes left, but I don't want to be getting into this section. Okay, by the way, I'm not sure, like, so don't want to be rushing also, be very honest, just a quick check with everyone before we call it a day today. See, we are on like slide, 125 will be starting from, and this is about another 15 odd slides. Next one, we don't have like too much of content in there. If I look at it's not too much, which it typically takes only 2 classes to complete. The latter part is very small, but if need be, see, our sessions are supposed to get over on 31st, because today's 8th and then we have 9th and 10th will be ending on 31st. If in case it does not, I don't want to be rushing through, and because so I will ask, let's see how it goes. We'll go with the regular pace and let's see if it works out. Otherwise, we may not need a full day, but I might just try to go and ask the IMC team to schedule one more session, but not full. Probably you might need just maximum an hour, or probably worst case scenario, 1.5 hours on the Monday. I hope that's okay with everyone. Because see, honestly, don't want to be rushing through, because it is my 1.5 hours extra is not going to hurt me more, but your time and the what you're investing is more important to me. So I really don't want to be rushing through that section. So let's go and do that. And if it naturally gets closed within this, typically takes that much time. So we'll go for it. Otherwise, probably will not take, because maximum 1 hour or 1.5 hours. So probably before the break. So we'll not be taking a break. We'll be sort of calling it a day. That's how it is. Okay, perfect then. Perfect. Let's see how it works out. No, thank you. So I see, doesn't make honestly. See, it will be cheating on my part, which is I would not be happy doing that. It's wrong. So your time that you're investing, like, see, money any given day, but again, more than that, time and the trust. I don't want to be breaching, because it doesn't work. It doesn't sink in. So we'll rather let's go it with a pace, and if it takes more time, doesn't matter. Like let's just take out one more extra day, and we're still not need a full day, which is okay. So I guess let's call it a day today, and let's connect after tomorrow from here on, quality section. Okay. All right then. Thanks everyone. Good night, and please take good care of yourself. Nothing to be uploaded today. Thank you. Bye-bye.